This is the Hagmann Hagmann Report for today. It's Friday, January 23rd, 2015. I'm Doug Hagmann, along with my son, fellow investigator, co-host Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann Hagmann Report. Thanks for joining us tonight, everyone from, well, all across the world, getting messages from the UK, other European countries, North and South America. And just want to say welcome. Thank you for deliberately listening to this program, purposely listening to it. Those of you who are called in, thank you so much. Tonight we're going to be getting into quite a few issues. We haven't had a lot of time to really talk over the news. The first hour we're going to be talking with Katy. I had the occasion this morning to talk at length with a medical doctor, and I was in his office for quite some time, and we were talking, and the nurses and the doctor as well, we were talking about the increase in flu. And it's not the ordinary flu. Even people who have gotten flu shots are getting some kind of a mutated flu virus. And according to his colleagues, it's sweeping the country. And it's really a very nasty strain. It takes a long time to get rid of. It involves a number of symptoms from stomach issues to massive fatigue and everything. So we're going to be talking with Katy about alternative remedies. In fact, I spoke with this doctor about the nutritional aspects of supplements, and of course he was reserved in his commentary about that, which I expect, and also the essential oils, which is something that I found to be extremely effective to combat and to what would you call it? Just strengthen your immune system. So anyway, we broadcast, folks, for the new listeners. Thanks for checking in with us. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Our home base on the internet is hagmannandhagmann.com. We're also simulcast by the Christians United Broadcasting Network. There you can tune us in at the hagmannandhagmann.com. The hagmannandhagmannreport.com. If you have any problems with BTR, you can switch over to there, or stay there. It doesn't matter. It's the stream is clean, and I think you'll find that our audio is pretty crisp and clear now. And I want to thank. He asked me not to use his name, but thank you for fixing a lot of issues that we were plagued with. Some self-inflicted, some not. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you for your belief and your trust in us. We are in this together. Whatever this is, alternate reality, we're in this together. Joe, it's good to have you here tonight at the studios.
Great to be here. We do have our guest for hour number one on with us, Katy.
All right. Katy from Essential Oils, from Family Essencial Shop.com. Sorry to interrupt you, Joe. It's just getting so many emails about this. Just simply go to hagmannhagmann.com. Scroll down on the right. You'll see the thing that says Essential Oils, a banner. Click on that, and it'll take you right to Katy's website. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah. There's a few things we want to get into with Katy, and she's got some things to say. And you were talking about the flu, and I see the stories coming out of Disney. Even the vaccinated are getting sick in this measles outbreak that they're having. And there's a few other things going on. But with that, Katy, welcome to the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Good evening, Doug and Joe. Thank you again for having me on. This is wonderful.
Well, it's wonderful to have you. Your essential oils, and there are some people that I just want to thank so very much. A lady who had a very nice, just a wonderful person, who actually had provided me with oils for our puppy, actually, our studio dog. And I just want to say thank you to her, and I'll have her permission to use her name on air, so I'll just say thank you so much for that. But yeah, it really, it's the oils I found are really, wow, they work.
Yeah, they're amazing, wow. Aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're a secret. I mean, they've been around for a long time, but they're just starting to come back into the mainstream and into the dialogue. And that's my job, is to try and introduce people to them. They're wonderful. I mean, I've been studying the oils for a long time in terms of the history and some of the science, the chemistry behind it, which is sort of over my head, but I have some of the basics down. But the more you learn, and then the more you actually use them, it is amazing. And I got a hold of you a few weeks ago because I was so excited. I had a flu testimony, which I will share with your audience, because I know that the flu is hitting people, and, there is a definite protocol, and people can sort of vacillate between the different oils, but I can share what I use.
Okay.
I also want to kind of recap, Doug, in case some listeners are new, some of the things we went over the last show, just sort of the basics. Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah. Take it wherever you want to go. And folks, pay attention, because this is something affordable you can do. It'll help you. It'll strengthen you. I've noticed a difference between essential oils from Katy and Ted Broer with respect to his supplements. My goodness, I feel like a different person.
Yeah.
So fire away. Go ahead.
Okay, that's great. And one thing I want to sort of sidetrack a little bit. After the last interview, I was inundated with calls and emails. I mean, and you have amazing listeners. They were all just curious and wonderful. I mean, I've got testimonies from them already. I wanted to share one of those tonight. But you have amazing listeners. And I didn't leave my pajamas for 3 days after that show because I couldn't. I was on the phone and emailing for days because there was such an overwhelming response, and it just proves people are hungry for some way to grab on to doing things on their own and not being a part of the system, right? So that I wanted to bring up. That was a great thing. But so for the new listeners, essential oils are they're a very powerful oil that comes from the plant. Every plant, every tree, there's bark, everything has a protective oil sac on it. And that oil sac is what we end up extracting and steam distilling and using for essential oils. That oil sac has properties in it. It has chemical properties called terpenes, and you can research all that. But these properties protect the plant from viruses, bacteria, pathogens, parasites. Well, they work on the human body in much the same way. So thousands of years ago, they figured out a way to extract these oils, and they've used them for medicinal purposes and other purposes, ritual purposes, whatever, but for medicinal purposes for thousands of years. And China and the Arab countries, and I mean, they found frankincense in the tombs, in the mummies' tombs. It was completely potent. As long as it's kept dark and cool, it was completely potent frankincense. So it has a shelf life of a very, very, very long time. You do want to keep them out of sunlight and heat, but yeah, they're great.
That explains, Katy. That explains why my essential oils of all my essential oils bottles are marked best if used by 3000 AD. So that explains that.
It's nice when your essential oils are going to well outlive your great-great-great-grandchildren, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, and so these oils can be used for, we went over this last time, they have multifaceted purposes. For example, lavender. Lavender has an effect on the brain and the spiritual nature of the person, the emotion. It's a calming oil. It just has a sedative effect on the brain. But it can also be used physically. It has great properties for burn. It can actually inhibit any damage from a burn. I was just reading about one of the, he was a Frenchman, and he actually, what was his name? René Maurice Gautofeste, I can't pronounce it, but he was a chemist. He was born in 1881, and he was working with some in a laboratory, and there was an explosion, a burning substance just completely engulfed his arms and his hands, and he had something called the gasification of tissue, and that's where you're when you burn yourself, you blister, and that's your body's natural mechanism. Well, he had lavender. He had essence of lavender oil, and he dipped his hands immediately in the lavender oil, and it halted the process, the gasification process. And so it just stopped it in its tracks, and there was no blistering, and it calms your, or if you burn your hand and you put lavender on it right away, it takes the pain away immediately. So lavender has wonderful properties for burns, sunburns, things like that. It's also good for muscle relaxants, and they all have multifaceted purposes. So it's a great thing to have all the oils in your home at some point. If you can begin to accumulate them, and then you realize you wake up one morning and you have something pressing, you've got the oil you need. And that's kind of where I want to segue into the flu protocol.
All right.
I was just reading from the other day from a site, freezing up, thank you, but it was in California, they're having to ration cough syrup for flu. And California pharmacies rationing prescription strength cough syrup in busy flu season. Well, this is just par for the course, not to mention emergency rooms and everywhere else. Why would you want to do that when you have everything you need at home? So here's what happened to me. It was Christmas Eve. It was about 5 o'clock, and I started getting the chills. I was just freezing cold. And I thought, well, that's strange. I've never gotten the flu, ever. I've gotten bad colds, but I've never had the flu. And I attribute that to my years as a flight attendant, being exposed to every sort of pathogen on the planet. I have a pretty good immune system. So I was kind of surprised, and I started getting the shakes, and I was getting nauseous. I had a terrible headache, aches from head to toe, and then I looked, I had a fever of 101, and I got sick within about 2 hours. So I got all my oils ready. I listened to Ted Brower's advice and had a box of organic chicken broth ready to go and some pink salt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I was ready to go. I was drinking detox tea, chicken broth, lots of water, and my protocol, which I want to, if I can plug, I have a new blog. If I could plug
Sure.
my new blog.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's theessentialoilwealth.blogspot.com, and the protocol is actually on there, if you want to pull that up. But what I did was, and the important thing with oils is you have to use them. It's not a time-released system. You have to use them constantly. So I put oregano on my feet, tip to heel, every hour and a half. So I take 2 drops and rub it onto the bottom of my feet. And we talked last time about how your feet have nerve centers, and they travel all through your, the oil will travel all through your system and get to where it needs to go.
Right.
So a couple drops on the bottom of my feet. I put a blend. It's called On Guard, and I had a blend called Breathe, which are On Guard is what they used to call thieves oil. It's cinnamon, orange, eucalyptus, rosemary, clove. These are really strong antibacterial. And then Breathe, which is a breathing. I'm sorry?
Now, can you use, for example, if you're feeling fine, is that something you would use on the bottom of your feet, or is that something that you would just reserve for when you're feeling poorly?
Well, I would recommend if you work in an office, or if you're just starting to feel bad, or even if you're feeling great but you work in a closed environment and it's flu season, I would use On Guard on my feet a couple times a day and put a couple drops in my drinking water just to ward off anything that's coming. Definitely. That's a great question.
Okay. Well, go ahead. I didn't mean to derail you there, but go ahead.
Okay. I did that every hour and a half, and I even woke myself up that night every 4 hours just so I could get some sleep. I woke myself up every 4 hours and applied it to my hands and feet and breathed it in a little bit. And then I had a diffuser going with On Guard. I'd alternate the On Guard blend and the Breathe blend. And Breathe is a respiratory blend. Peppermint and the vasodilator. It's wonderful. So that was running nonstop. Lots of water with lemon, detox teas with cinnamon and lemon in them, organic chicken broth. I was drinking as much of that as I could.
Hot
peppermint.
Hot or cold?
Oh, I would warm it up.
Okay.
Up. Yeah. I mean, I had everything ready to go, so all I had to do is just put it in a saucepan and just getting lots of fluids in there. I had peppermint on my chest and neck every few hours, and then there's a thing called the On Guard soft gel. It's actually the On Guard blend oil, the seized oil type blend, an On Guard blend, but it's in a gel, so it's easy to take. So I took 2 of those every 2 hours, and I inhaled all the oils that I applied. Every time I applied them, I breathed them in. So I was pretty much, I had a consistent protection going in and outside of my body the whole time. And I really got nailed about 11 o'clock that night, sicker than a dog. And I kept doing this. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, I woke up almost delirious. My blood oxygen was down to 83, which is terrible. It's usually about 97. My heart rate was about 110. It's usually about 65. Everything was upside down. I was sweating, and all of a sudden, boom, click. Something happened, and my fever broke. It just stopped. Everything stopped. So within 12 hours, applied, stopped whatever was progressing, and turned it back. The next 2 days, I was fine. I was up by about 7 o'clock, and I was up and about. I wasn't fluish anymore, but I was exhausted and dehydrated. So for 2 days, I kind of laid low and drank a lot of fluids, and then I was fine. But a normal flu, you're going to end up in the emergency room. You're going to call your doctor. You're going to be miserable for a week or more. And depending on your immune system, you could end up in the hospital. This thing was wicked. I had never experienced anything like it, the vomiting, the whole thing. But it was over in 12 hours. So I did a little look-see on what exactly was happening. And the oregano and the clove and all these amazing oils, what they do is they actually halt the progression of the viral reproduction. So whatever was churning in me up to the point where I had a fever, the minute I started this constant flow of oils and protection, it stopped that progression. So naturally, yes, it took about 12 hours to work itself out, but I never got horribly sick and was laid in bed for a week. So
okay,
it was amazing.
That's marvelous. So that your protocol, just to recap here, go ahead and run down the list of what you use to, when you start feeling bad, you put oil of oregano on the bottom of your feet. You took
oil.
Go ahead, just give me a rundown, kind of a laundry list here of what you used.
Okay. And you can also find this, like I said, I typed it out on theessentialoilwell.blogspot.com.
Okay.
If you scroll all the way to the bottom, it has Katy's flu protocol. Now, this is what I chose. You can vary these oils, and I put that down in there. I mean, you can Melaleuca, you could interchange Melaleuca. Melissa is another antiviral, but you can. The more you learn about them, you can switch them off and on. But this worked for me. So it was oregano on my feet every hour and a half. It was the On Guard and Breathe blend. They're a blend of oils. You get them blended, pre-blended. I had those running in the diffuser pretty much nonstop, and lots of water with lemon, maybe 8 drops to every 20 ounces of water. And make sure that's in stainless steel or glass because the lemon will actually melt the plastic, the citrus. So glass or stainless steel, yeah. And just as a side note, it's a good thing because that's what lemon does in your body. I mean, it grabs the petrochemicals and the toxins and pulls them out. It does not like toxins. So in your body, it's a really good thing because you don't want to put a citrus oil in styrofoam or plastic or anything like that. So stainless steel, glass. Detox teas with a few drops of lemon and cinnamon. And you know cinnamon, Doug. Cinnamon's a great antibacterial.
Yep.
Then I had chicken broth going. I was drinking chicken broth with a little pinch of red salt in it. I had peppermint oil. I was alternating the peppermint oil and the On Guard on my chest and my neck every few hours. And I was taking, this is as Steve Quayle says, this is critical. The On Guard soft gels. It was critical. That's the biggie. On Guard 2 every 2 hours until my fever broke. And then once my fever broke, I did 2 to 3 of those, or I did 3 or 4 of those a day just to keep on it. But I did 2 every 2 hours until the fever broke.
All right.
And if you don't have the gels, you can put the On Guard oil in a capsule, 2 to 3 drops of the On Guard oil in a gel cap and take it. And then I inhaled all the oils as I was putting, into my sinuses, into my lungs. That's a great way to get it into your system. So every time I applied an oil, I also breathed it in. And like I said in the thing, my fever broke within 14 hours, and I was up the next day a little sore. But, so I'm telling people, and here's the great thing. The whole treatment cost me less than $10.
Wow.
And, because I had all the oils there. I had everything I needed right there, and a few drops here and a few drops there and some gel caps. The whole treatment for 15 hours cost me less than $10. So
this is pretty good. And folks, go to HagmannHagmann.com, click on the Essential Oils banner, which will take you to Katy's website. And then from there, just scroll down to visit my Essential Oil Well blog, and that'll take you directly to her, the Essential Oil Well .blogspot.com. You don't have to remember that, but I'll just say it again, the Essential Oil Well .blogspot.com. And scroll down because it says Katy's Flu Protocol, and the protocol is written out right there. So, wow, okay. And the question about the soft gels, the On Guard soft gels, and I've had this, people have emailed me this. Do you take these normally, like when you're feeling good, or is it just reserved for times you're not feeling well?
I would say you can. It's not going to. These oils aren't going to hurt you. They'll keep your immune system boosted, like the On Guard.
Right.
But I generally take them every day. But I will take them in particular seasons, or if I know I'm going out, or I'm going to be doing. Like I do trade shows and gun shows, and there's a lot of people, and I'm exposed to a lot, and I'm stressed. Then yes, then I'll take 2 or 3 of these gels, with one with each meal to get me through that particular event or whatever. But my main thing is, if it's flu season, probably wouldn't hurt to just get up in the morning, put a little On Guard on your feet or your chest and breathe it in. Maybe put a couple drops in your drinking water when you go to the office. Just keep that constant protection going, because these oils are in your system and they are working, and they're killing pathogens, and they're boosting your immune system, and they're great for you. And the more you learn about them, then you understand why physiologically, how they're working, and what they're doing. So, and there's a book that I would recommend to all your listeners. If they're interested in oils and they want to learn about each oil, it's the book you have, Doug. You got that book. Yeah, that's a wonderful book, because it goes into each oil, and I don't have anything to do with that company. They're probably going to get inundated with
orders.
But yeah, that's not a part of anything I do. I love their site, and I referred it to everyone who contacted me, and it's on my website called aromatools.com. You can get this book called Modern Essentials. It goes into the history of oils, the chemistry of oils, the properties, each oil in particular, how, what properties it has, chemical-wise, what you can use them for, and then you can actually go to the back of the book and pull up diabetes or cardiovascular issues or fibromyalgia, and it'll give you a general outline of what oils are good for that particular issue, that illness, and how to apply it, either internally, externally, or aromatically. So is that,
wow.
Yeah,
Fabulous.
Is that clear? Is that pretty simple? Because sometimes I jump ahead, like I did last time. I jump ahead and I assume everybody knows, but this book is the Bible of oils. And the great thing that I wanted to say is, yes, it takes, people say, well, it's too expensive. Well, even if you have insurance, if you want to go into a waiting room and you have the flu, you're probably going to pick something else up while you're there, and you're going to have deductibles and all kinds of things. Why not stay home and just treat it that way if you can? If you have a compromised immune system, then I understand that. But for your average Joe, you can do this at home on your own. So, and I'm not recommending that people not go to the hospital if they feel like they need to. What I'm saying is if you educate yourself on the oils and good nutrition and getting your system going, you can do these things alone. So if you have the oils over time, buy a bottle of oregano, get a bottle of peppermint, and then when you need it, you have it.
That's right.
So,
and Katy, I just want to say this. In talking with my doctor today, and he said really 1 out of every 2 people in his waiting room for the last 2 weeks were there for flu-like symptoms or the flu or some sort of systemic infection that could be traced back to something that would be contagious, that they got somewhere. And right before I asked him for a mask, after hearing that, no, I said, and we were talking about stuff like this, and he said, there are people that do this, and it does seem to help. Now, he was caught between the meme of the HMO or whatever, the healthcare system that he has. So he wouldn't come right out and say, well, oh, absolutely, I endorse this, because I had told him, I said, I use the oils and I use the supplements from Dr. Ted Broer. And he said, well, people like to feel in control of their health. And I said, don't talk to me that way. I'm not an idiot, okay? And he kind of chuckled a little bit. And we're relatively, we're friends, and I said, come on, I know what you got to say, but tell me, and he, people, and the other thing too, Katy, is we are entering into, I believe, some pretty crappy times ahead. We what's coming down the pike, we may not be able to get to a hospital, get to a doctor, or if we are, they might not be able to take us. So this, I look at this as kind of part of our preps. And why not? But then again, I don't want people to go broke, right? People. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm there with you, Doug. I'm. That's what I do. I'm always out there encouraging people they can do this themselves. And I think in the last interview, I used the word research, 2004. So, but that's my thing. I want people to do their own homework and look into this, because yes, I know that the doctors, your doctor, I'm sure you have a good relationship with them, and I have one with mine. But they're research oriented. They want to see it. They want to see the science, because when they're in med school, that's all they're learning is science and chemistry and pharmaceutical studies and all that. They want the research. If you can give them the research, and that's what I have talked to a few of your listeners that did call me. I said, if you have a doctor and you're sort of skeptical about it, bring them the research. So I did pull up a few things, and I can give some recommendations to anyone listening for some sites to go to. for research to walk into your doctor and present it to them. Because some doctors will poo-poo it, and other doctors will sort of scratch their head because you're now talking their language. Okay? They can read this. Now, one of those sites is called PubMed, PubMed.org. And if you go to PubMed.org, oh, and you're going to love this, Doug. PubMed is a government research site, basically. Okay. So I got the FDA is trying to shut me down from sending people. One government agency is trying to shut me down from going and talking about what's posted on another government agency website. Doesn't that make sense?
Wait a minute. Are you saying that the government is trying to shut you down personally? I mean, really?
We can't say words like cure or heal when referring to anything that we're doing. We can't use those words. We can use the words like wellness and support and things like that.
How about feel better? Feeling better.
Yeah.
Can you say that?
You just feeling better. Yes. I mean, that's what that whole dust up was a few months ago with the FDA coming down on some of the essential oil companies. And the oil companies are actually having to police their own language because there's this fear of the hammer of big FDA and big pharma coming down on some of these companies. But I thought it was very ironic that PubMed is a government research site set up, by the government, and doctors go there and they dump their research. So PubMed.org, and if you type in the search bar essential oil and then On Guard, you will see some amazing studies. And in those studies, let's see if I've got some of it here. I've got the PubMed site right here.
PubMed, for those, Katy, for those listening, PubMed, no, you're not going to find your microbrewery flavors there. This is a research site. Oh, my.
That's right. Doctors go to have their nightcaps. Yeah, that's good.
All right.
At PubMed.org. And right here, essential oil prepared from hydrodistillation of Boswellia sacragum resins induces human pancreatic cancer cell death in cultures and in xenograft murine model. So, I mean, and there's 20 pages, 7,600 articles on essential oils. If you Google If you click in our essential oil and On Guard, you'll see how On Guard actually has been proven to halt viral reproduction. So it's all there. They know this. They know what it does. Here's protective essential oil attenuates influenza virus infection. And if you read down and you scroll down, it gives you all this of what this particular blend, the On Guard blend, which is clove, eucalyptus, cinnamon, orange, rosemary. It's perfectly blended, and it halts viral replication. It's right there. So take these into your doctor and show him, not necessarily you, Doug, but just anybody who's trying to educate their doctor. There's also something, if people want to do a search on this, Start Page is a great search site. Do a search, 6 doctors discuss, I shouldn't really say this. Actually you could. 6 doctors discuss essential oils. And you will see a panel of 6 doctors, an orthopedic surgeon, a anesthesiologist, ear, nose, and throat, and they're all up there talking about how they've incorporated using essential oils into their traditional practice. It's amazing. And they're out teaching other doctors how to do this. One doctor is from Vanderbilt University. So it is happening. It is happening. It's a slow process. But some doctors are waking up to this. There's
Good
also
stuff.
another there's another site called Aromatic can go, and I believe if you click library, you can find some of the studies there where doctors go, physicians, scientists, researchers, they go and they dump their research. So it's out there if you look for it, and you could find it, and it's up to us to educate our doctors. That's what one of the panelists says. He said, there's this patriarchal system where the doctor's the father, and, he knows all, and so they're trying to turn that around, saying, no, sometimes we can gather information too, and we want to feel empowered that I want to know what I'm taking. I want to know what you're giving me. I want to know what the side effects are. I don't want to have to deal with it 3 years later when I have kidney failure. I want to know what you're doing. And
I got to, Katy, just let me interject something here. One of the medications prescribed to me, and I only took it for a very brief amount of time, but again, when I was talking to the doctor today, I said, I want to thank you for giving me this one medication. And he said, why? It worked? He was kind of confused. I said, no, one of the side effects is pancreatic cancer. And I mean, really? Did you know this? I mean, and it's like a death sentence, for crying out loud. And he said, well, that's true, it is. And I said, no, come on, man. We had a discussion. I'll just say that. So none of this stuff.
That's the problem.
No, none of this is going to have the side effects unless you mix it with some paint or glue when you're inhaling it, I suppose. But none of these essential oils will have the side effects of the pharmaceuticals that we're talking about.
No, and I was just reading this afternoon that they've done studies on people who've they've had test studies for people who've ingested oils way over the recommended amount with no adverse effects. I mean, you may get sick a little bit, but you may feel bad, but no, the essential oils are so natural, and we explained in the last show, they're very compatible with the human body. They work, like I said, they work in the same way they do on plants. God's medicine. He put them there for us, and it's for us to use. So, I have no problem encouraging people to educate their doctors and start doing some homework on that. But do you mind if I read a testimony from one of your listeners?
Sure, go ahead.
If I said no, what would you? No, of course, go ahead. Certainly, go ahead.
Okay. If I can find it here. She was so cute. Let's see here. She had some. I'm sorry. I'm having a little.
And while you're looking, Katy, I got a few questions from listeners. One is something you just mentioned. You said it was basically the Bible of the essential oils information, and we're getting a few emails, people that wanted to know the title of that book.
My wife's got that book. She won't give it back to me, so I'm not sure.
Oh, yes. It's called Modern Essentials. Modern Essentials, a contemporary guide to the therapeutic use of essential oils. Modern Essentials. There's one place that I know of you can get it, and it's from a website called aromatools.com. aromatools.com. And just look for meat and books, and you can get it there. And it's a hardcover to have because, the kids get sick, and you just look up ear infection, and it'll give you 6 or 7 different oils because some oils may work differently. One child may respond to one oil, and another child may respond. But you can experiment with them, and it'll give you how to apply it, and it's all there. It's wonderful. So I would recommend that as a great starter. So, and you can get the 6th edition, which is the new. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah. Very good.
here's a testimony. I love this testimony. It's so cute. It says, Katy, I'm a new customer and I've just tried essential oils for the first time. I'm hooked already. I heard you on the Hagmann and Hagmann show a couple of weeks ago. I was so intrigued by what I heard about the oils already, having learned about a more natural way of eating and taking care of my body. 65 years old, had weak lungs for most of my life. Even during my jogging days, I would run out of breath easily. I had something like exercise-induced asthma. Laughing for me was difficult, as I lose my breath and then have to fight to start breathing again, almost choking, unable to breathe. So I have laughed lightly with caution for years and years. My first shipment, I ordered the Breathe blend. The first night I used the diffuser with about 5 or 6 drops. I slept incredibly good and felt the difference in my breathing immediately the next morning. In 2 weeks, I've used them nightly. My breathing has improved about 70%. I take a full deep breath for the I can take a full deep breath for the first time in decades without coughing or getting my breath cut short. Living in Austin, Texas, where cedar allergies are high, I struggle every year, and even that has gotten better. And I'm living without allergy meds. So that's just one of the testimonies that's come back. That's from Ina. Hi, Ina. But, you know, it's so nice because people are catching on and they're realizing they don't have to suffer. This poor woman, she couldn't laugh, and now she can laugh. She can go out walking. She feels normal again. Just from something as simple as a diffusing an essential oil in her home at night while she's sleeping, passive protection. So.
As crazy as it sounds, our puppy, 7 months old, her studio dog, God bless her. My wife uses the diffuser when she sleeps in the bedroom, and sometimes I never make it to bed, but the puppy loves that. It's strange to even say that, but there's this actual draw toward that diffuser, and our puppy just loves to be in that environment. And look, I don't know. It's just an observation, and it's made a difference. I mean, you could tell how many puppies actually sleep right through. Like a log, sleep right through the night. And those people with insomnia, this may help as well. Or having trouble sleeping, that may help as well. It's a really kind of a inexpensive fix. It's better than sleeping pills. It's better than what are those benzoids? The Valium or that kind of stuff that one might take for sleeping. So.
Well, what are you using? What are you using in your diffuser to sleep at night?
Sodium pentothal. No. Sorry.
That even went over my head.
Yeah. You know what? I'd have to ask my wife. I don't know. But it smells good. It smells good.
And the animals are onto it. They really are. I have a dog, and when I put frankincense on, frankincense is a calming oil. It's a wonder. Well, it has a lot of properties, but I put it on at night, and she can smell it from across the room, and she will come over and lick it off my hands, frantically licking it off my hands. So I started looking into that, and if she's loving it and she's wanting them, she's craving them, then maybe there's something to it. And she's 12 and had some hip and joint problems, so I looked into that. And for cartilage, I was putting marjoram on her pads, the little pads of her back feet, and some sandalwood. And there's a blend called Deep Blue that I was putting on her muscles. So there's certain oils you have to be careful with cats and dogs, and that's all in the book. But they know what's good for them. They know what's good instinctively. I was at a trade show, and this little baby, maybe 8 months old, they brought him up to the table, and his nose was running. They said that they'd been in the emergency room 3 times. He'd been on all these antibiotic protocols, and nothing was helping. And so I had Mom put her hand out, and I said, just take a couple drops of peppermint and rub your hands together and cup it over his little nose and let him breathe it in. The minute he smelled it, he grabbed her hand and split towards him and would not let go. and kept breathing it in. So it's sort of a placebo effect. You know, on animals, they don't know what they're being exposed to, but they know something's good about it. So that's a pretty good sign, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have a question from a listener, Katy, about the with the asthma issues. They asked that they just bought a cool mist humidifier, and that in this humidifier there was a spot to put oils, and wanted to know what you would recommend, especially for someone with asthma-related issues.
Well, I can't give any medical advice. We all know that, right?
Right.
But what I can say is what I use is the Breathe blend, because it has peppermint and different ingredients in it. Peppermint is the main ingredient in it. Peppermint is a vasodilator. That means it immediately opens up blood vessels and you know, anything to do with the lungs. It's just opening everything up. If you have asthma attacks, sometimes, depending on how severe it is or not, you know, how mild it is, it works wonderful. You can start breathing right away. It's great for headaches, too, because it's on the back of the neck. It's generally migraines or wherever your blood vessels close off, and then they rapidly open up and swell. If I put peppermint on the back of my neck, I can instantly feel the vasodilator effect working, just the blood flow. So peppermint would be great. Now, the difference between a humidifier and a diffuser, a humidifier will work, but it's a very heavy, it's a lot of moisture, and the molecules are very large, the water molecules that come out of a humidifier. So you'll still get some sort of effect, but I would recommend for people diffusers, because diffusers break down the compounds, and the water molecules are much smaller, so they're going to get into your system more efficiently.
Right.
But a humidifier will work. But I think peppermint or the Breathe blend, or even eucalyptus is good. Eucalyptus is wonderful. That's what I use. So,
right.
And it's all, they can get that in the book.
Okay. And even if you don't have, even if you don't have a diffuser, certainly putting, like you said, peppermint, direct application of peppermint or whatever oil for whatever purpose, right. it does work. You get the smell, odor, not odor, but aroma. So
yeah, put a couple drops on your hand, rub it together, and cup it over you, and just breathe it in for 30 seconds. The advantage of the diffusers for me it's passive. So if I come home from work and I'm stressed out, I put a little lavender in there, and I don't even have to think about it. It's just filling the air with the aromatic compounds that are getting into my system and having an effect on my body, a chemical effect on my body. Or if I'm sleeping and I'm stuffed up, I'll put maybe some cinnamon or clove or On Guard or peppermint in there, and it's working passively. So you don't have to think about it. But, oh, yeah, sure, you can apply it on your hands or any way like that. So that's pretty much what I was thinking. And last time we talked, did you have any questions about any particular oils? Because I know, Doug, you were asking about particular oils that you're interested in.
What was I asking about? It was, I don't recall specifically.
There's a lot of oils out there, and they all have different properties. But the 10 major oils, there's 8 or 10 oils that are used most frequently, and that would be the peppermint, oregano. I don't know if your listeners ever heard of Dr. Cass Ingram. He wrote a book called The Cure is in the Cupboard, and the book is about oregano, oil of oregano. So I don't know how he got away with using The Cure is in the Cupboard with the FDA, but he did. He was actually on Josh Tolley's show.
Oh, yeah.
About 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on.
Okay. That's a very good book, The Cure's in the Cupboard. In fact, I talked to Josh about this very subject, and this was some time ago. We'll have to see if there's an archive on that, direct people to that interview with Josh Tolley. Interesting. The book is excellent, by the way.
Well, he was talking Dr. Ingram was talking about how he's never taken a vaccine because he works over in Africa with malaria, or was it? I can't remember if it was malaria or type diphtheria. I don't know what the specific areas he was going into, but he was dealing with these horrendous communicable diseases. He said he's never taken a vaccination. What he does is he just takes oregano oil with him, and he puts it in a spray bottle, and when he walks into a hotel, he sprays the doorknobs and the bathrooms, and he walks to an office, he just mists it everywhere. He takes a few drops, takes, I believe, capsules while he's traveling. He's streaming through his system the whole time, and he's been doing this for years, and he's never contracted anything. So he's a firm believer in oregano oil. And that would be a great book for people to look.
And what was that again?
The name of the book is called
Yeah.
The Cure. The Cure is in the Cupboard by Dr. Kath Ingram.
The Cure is in the Cupboard, you said?
The Cure is in the Cupboard.
Oil of oregano, store right next to your pasta, and you'll be fine.
Do you know I made spaghetti sauce the other night and threw a couple of drops of oregano, and it was terrific. So don't laugh, Doc.
Hey, that's a great idea. My wife cooks spaghetti all the time. And
a little bit on your pizza? All right.
Yeah.
That's one way to get it done.
I use the oil all the time. Sure, you can make lemonade out of the lemon, and you can cook with all cassia and cinnamon. They make wonderful. You can bake with them. Sure, they're terrific. They're multi-purpose.
Well, this is fantastic. So, Katy, how can people? So for the listeners who want to really get into this a little bit more with you, and I know your time is valuable. I know that you work your butt off and stuff, and you've got a whole life. I understand that, but for those people who have got specific questions for you, or who want maybe just to run some things by you, knowing, of course, you cannot dispense medical advice, nor are you dispensing medical advice. No. For those from because invariably, look, folks, I'm going to tell you something, okay? Katy, just bear with me for a second. Yesterday when Steve Quayle was talking about people who complain or who will complain or say, well, we're going to attack, we're going to inform your sponsors and all this. Let me tell you something. This is a real war that is going on. It's not Steve Quayle whining or moaning. No, it's not that. It's alerting to the people have to understand how late it is, and the tactics are changing and they're getting worse. People are digging in. They're using fictitious names. In fact, some of the very people that we've had on this program unknowingly to us had used, I'm not going to get into that yet, but I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, it's coming, and I will. But having said that, there's a war on. So if people, they might hear you. Just to be clear, she's not dispensing medical advice. Anything else that you want to disclaim? You're not dispensing medical advice.
No, my main thing is teaching people to take their own health in their own hands, do their own research, do their own homework. What I can provide them with is the information, the website, the tools, the book, the links, and that's generally what I do. When people call or email me, here's some links, here's some information. I can provide you a direct path to the products that I use because I trust them. But you do your own homework and take your own health in your own hands. Go to your doctor. Challenge your doctor. Here's some sites where you can pull some things up. Go find a holistic doctor. Find a nutritionist. Holistic meaning the whole body. Okay.
That's right.
Traditional medicine is you treat the symptom or the trauma. And I've said this on your last show. Love doctors. If I have a broken arm, I want a doctor. If I have a ruptured spleen, give me a hospital. But for a lot of diseases, you start from the inside. You start with a good nutritional program. You alkalize the body, get your diet right. These oils, these powerful oils, are just one tool, the body, because the body is designed to heal itself. And sometimes with all the toxins and the garbage and all the things out there that we're being exposed to, it's wearing us down. It's wearing us thin. And our poor systems are just literally dying for the support. So these oils provide one type of tool to do that. And I've had tremendous results myself. I'm getting all kinds of feedback. It's a great thing. No, I do not dispense medical information. I send people on their own journey. How's that?
Right, and that's fine. People on a limited budget. Look, we all have to decide how we're going to spend our money, and it seems like it's getting harder and harder to really budget things. What would you recommend as like a starter, as somebody who's new to oils, new to this kind of holistic approach? What would you recommend as like a starter kit if you only have maybe $25, $50 to spend? What would you recommend?
Boy, I would go with a lemon. I would go with an oregano. And the lemon is what, $10, $11, $12 generally. It's very inexpensive. Your oregano oils are going to be in the 20s. Have an oregano, have some good antibacterial, antiviral type oils. Depending on your issues, I mean, if you have insomnia or you have chronic infections, that book's going to help you. And there's another site called, for your listeners, everythingessential.me.
Everythingessential.me. Okay, everything is. I'm sorry. Yeah, everythingessential.me. Everythingessential.me. Okay, go ahead.
And that's the site that's not related to me. It's somebody else who deals with oils, but it's a great reference because you can click on a particular oil and it'll tell you what issues it deals with, and then you can actually click on an issue, fibromyalgia, and it'll pull up a full page of the oils you can use for that. So it's a great online reference for that. So depending on a person's issue, I would have lemon in the house, I would have oregano in the house, and maybe some On Guard in the house. Those would be your infectious, your anti-infectious type oils. Now, like I said, if you have other issues, then you could just have a couple of oils in the house. Say you have an insomnia issue, maybe, or an anxiety issue. That's your main focus. Get some cedar wood, relatively inexpensive. I think it's in the 20 or 30 range. Cedar wood's amazing. A lavender. That's a 20 plus range oil. Lavender.
I need a 55-gallon drum of that cedar wood.
You should try cedar wood, Doug. Cedar wood is amazing. It knocks me right out. Doesn't sound like it would, but it does. It's a calming oil. So people can do it relatively inexpensively and just do it over time. If your budget's $25 a month, get a bottle of this, until you have a supply you're comfortable with.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, Katy, you've been just wonderful tonight. And again, we look at this as being proactive with our health, but also in your bug-out bag, in your preps, what else do you need? This is going to be one of those things where, you might not have the ability to get to a doctor or get to a hospital. Is this in place of it? Not necessarily, but this can be preventative or alternative in terms of what you got going. So love it. Katy's website. Katy, give out your website.
The website is familyessentialshop.com.
Okay. And then, of course, your blog. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Essential Oil Well. And
which
if
is
people have testimony.
That's linked off of your main website. So if you go to HagmannHagmann.com, click on the essential oils there, and we folks, we care about each and every listener. We really do. We just want to see. So many people write to us and say, "Man, I'd love to be able to, fight, but I've got so many health problems and so many issues, and this is why we had Katy come on, because this is one way that we can be proactive with our health without involving the medical system." Yep. And that's what I like to say. All right.
And with flu season coming, if people want to go to that blog spot and look at my flu protocol, just the main thing to remember is stick with it. It's got to be a constant application, because we're so used to taking one pill, time released. If you stay on it, these oils are so powerful. They will they will do what they're designed to do. I saw it myself. So, but Doug, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Well, I do hope that people take the time to contact you with their questions in terms of emails and such. But and I know our audience; they're respectful of your time and such. But certainly a wealth of knowledge. Thank you, Katy. God bless you, and stay well.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.
Have a good night, Katy.
Joe,
all right. Before we go further, I just want to give a shout out here to Carla. Carla, I'm not going to use your last name. We met at the Prophecy Conference in Dublin, Ohio in November. Thank you. You brought, you were with your mom, and I remember vividly, like it was yesterday, meeting the two of you, and the package of essential oils for our puppy. God bless you so much, Carla. And a very, very warm message also to Deborah O. Deborah, thank you so much for all that you've done, all the information you've given us, all the things that you've provided for us. Thank you. I just want to say this in the theme of being proactive. Two very, very special people, three, counting Carla's mother. And hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, having to springboard off of that, hopefully we can meet each and every one of you, those who can, to make it to the Prophecy in the News Conference in Orlando, Florida. The link is up on our website with a big banner up there. We will be speaking on Saturday, and then Friday we're putting together some pretty cool roundtable discussions. So pleased to be a part of that, such a wonderful conference. And hopefully we can meet people there.
Tonight in the third hour, we're going to have author Bob Kornicki. I want to make sure I say that right. He's the author of Temple. He's going to be speaking at Prophecy in the News Conference also. He'll be on with us the third hour tonight. His website is in the show description.
He just did a bunch of TV for Prophecy in the News. I think it was yesterday, and we happened to catch. We got a call saying, "Hey, this guy's got some massively great information," and we said, "Let's have him on." So
he'll be joining us in the third hour, and we're looking forward to that. And we have another speaker from Orlando that I think sent us some information today, wants to come on the show also. So we're going to do that, have as many, just like last year, have as many of the presenters on as we can before the conference.
Right.
And every presenter at the conference has, one or two topics or one or two presentations are given to the audience, and each presenter usually does more than one topic. So, what they get into here, if you can't even go see the conference in live, they do have the live stream link at the website. It's affordable for those who won't be able to make it yet, want to watch the conference live, and ordering the live stream, even if for people who go, it's worth it. I think it is included in your package if you go.
Right.
But if not, you still get to keep those presentations up and running, I believe, for as long as you want. I'm not sure if they put a time frame on how long you can keep them for, but at least up to 60 days, I would imagine.
Yeah, there is a cutoff date, but it's pretty liberal. It's pretty generous.
And then you have three speakers at a time speaking. So even if you're there, you're going to miss, two of the speakers per hour. So it would be wise to get the live streaming no matter what. With that, we're going to go to our top of the hour break. You're listening to the Hagmann Hagmann Report on this Friday, January 23rd, 2015.
Ladies and gentlemen, listeners from coast to coast worldwide to this Friday edition of the Hagmann Hagmann Report. It's Friday, January 23rd, 2015. This is a live broadcast, of course. It completely changed my line of thinking tonight. We had, and Joe still has, and we will get to some news, but I got an email earlier today from Angie W. Angie W., I just want to say thank you, and if you're listening, thank you. And she writes this, and I'll get to why I think this is important. She says that she was doing some catch-up reading and thought that she would send us Joseph Heron's post. It's on the cover, 2015 cover of The Economist. Now, folks, you've heard us talking about this, which she links to the movie Now You See Me, of which I remember she writes, in past times that you, Doug, have recommended watching, which prompted me to see it also. Yes, I do recommend people to watch that movie, Now You See Me, and you can even do so through the context of Joseph Heron's website, parablesblog.blogspot.com. Now, I don't know Joseph Heron. I don't know him. I don't know I've never been to his website until today. Now, having said that, the posting from Tuesday, January 13th, 2015, is titled Chasing Rabbits. You've heard, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me talk about The Economist magazine. You've heard others talk about it here on this broadcast, the 2015 cover, which is loaded with apparently Illuminati symbolism. You've heard us talk about the symbolism in the halftime shows of the Super Bowls, which I believe are actually magical spells that are being cast, along with the spellers, the witches like Madonna, Beyonce, or however you pronounce her name, and others. And of course the symbolism-laden Olympic 2012 Olympics in London. Now, it's interesting because in the context of the blog post Chasing Rabbits, I just want to kind of relate a personal experience to you, to the listeners, and some of the listeners might know this and others don't, but in 1982, my uncle was murdered in my home, and it was a murder that went unsolved for 5 years, and as an investigator in the private sector, the family hired us when it was still a cold case after 5 years to take a look to see what we could do in terms of finding the killer of my uncle. Well, the case went unsolved for 5 years. However, 8 months later, we did turn over some information that did lead to the arrest of the killer, and that killer is now incarcerated here in the state of Commonwealth of Pennsylvania in a maximum security prison. The reason I mention that murder, is because during the 8 months or so that we worked this case on a 24/7 basis, I followed a lot of rabbit trails. There were a lot of rabbit trails to follow. And I personally went to, I think it was 9 states maybe. Ultimately went down into a southern state. I spent quite a bit of time down there searching for clues, searching for people, interviewing people. Had somebody stick a gun in my ribs at one point, was thrown out of more places than I was invited in. I investigated the underbelly, the seedy underbelly of humanity, to the extent that I just went, I remember going back to the hotel. We could only afford, the hotels at that time, were like $20, $25 a night. And that was, yeah. I just remember thinking, this is all just, it's like a nightmare. You just can't find your way out. I mean, you get in so deep, you follow a trail so far, you lose your bearings, you lose your compass, you lose what really, you just get lost in the objective. I mean, it's like you just can't, where am I? What really is my objective? Sometimes you just get to the point where you just want to walk away. Even today, in today's world, is it not? Don't you just feel like, I just can't take any more of this stuff. I just want to walk away. And even to the extent where you might think, well, all of these people are saying it doesn't comport with what I term or what I believe to be reality. Look, I can go to the bank, I can go to Starbucks, I can go to Walmart. People are people, or people are people. I mean, everything is fine. It's just so maybe I'm crazy for even believing these idiots on the radio. Maybe it's me. Maybe maybe none of this is real. Maybe none of this that they're talking about is really truly real. Well, in the context of my investigation, that's kind of where I was at. Maybe none of this is real. You get so bogged down. Well, this Joseph Heron, and I want to thank you, Angie W., for sending this. Joseph Heron says, in a previous post that he made reference to the January 15 cover of The Economist. Well, it's The Economist magazine, he writes, is an organ of the Rothschilds and their associates. It is used to propagandize the masses. And the January cover is poignant or pregnant with symbolism and dismal forebodings regarding what could occur in 2015. And he goes on, he says that a number of websites which analyze the esoteric messages of the global elite they flood the world with have given attention to deciphering what is being communicated through the images and words contained on the cover of this edition of this New World Order periodical. Among them are the Vigilant Citizen, Before It's News, Zero Hedge, and above top secret websites. Now, yeah, there's a handful there. No doubt a great many people will spend time exploring the myriad of potential harbingers and omens contained in this magazine's covers artwork. Now, I asked and had received, thank you so much, the highest resolution covers. Thank you so much for sending them to me. I've got them. And well, what this gentleman writes is that he's been, he says, well, I'll just read this, paraphrase this here a little bit more, and you'll get the gist of this. He said in past postings that he's given attention to unveiling the cryptic messages of the global elite. And he's commented on various movies on the Olympic ceremonies and such, as we all do, right? Okay, over the years, I've observed, he writes, I've observed a growing number of individuals and websites that devote great amounts of time and resources to conspiracies, with more and more attention given to trying to predict the next thing the global elite, the servants of Satan, will do as they move even closer to establishing a one-world government under the rule of their spiritual master. Not only are the number of sites which focus on the subject increasing, but those who read these sites are greatly increasing in number. He says, with this in mind, I believe it is expedient to post a word of caution about the practice of trying to divine the future by studying the material put out by those who are under the guidance of the great deceiver. Absolutely true. You've got to be extremely cautious because, as I mentioned, in the context of the investigation I did, nearly 30 years ago, you can get caught up in this trail that leads you in circles, that has you bouncing off walls, that puts you in places where you do get a gun in your ribs, and it puts you in places that have these satanic influences and forces and people who want to make you go sideways and just keep you busy while they do what they will. And he writes that Satan is a master of deception and disinformation, and consequently those who look to movies, magazines, books, music videos, and etc. to know what Satan and his servants will do next are on perilous ground if they are not cognizant of the subtlety and cunning of the dragon, who is the serpent of old. I agree. You've got to be very careful that you're not being led down this perilous path of destruction and distraction. You've got to do that. Now, he writes, it is inadvisable to put too much attention on what Satan and his human minions are doing and saying, for they are invariably practicing deception even when they are seemingly forecasting their own plans. That is so true. You've got to watch. You've got to be cognizant of that. You've got to really get your investigator's badge out and put it on and remember, it's kind of like when you, and I don't know how many people listening, I know there are a lot of police officers listening who have had jail cell or prison interviews. If you've never sat on the other side of the table with somebody in prison, it's an experience. Believe me, it's an experience. I've been to Attica a number of times, and you're dealing with somebody who will not necessarily tell you the truth, or they'll tell you 99% of the truth and the 1% lie, and that 1% will just put you on a path of you just won't get out of it. I mean, you've got to be so careful, so careful. This this gentleman, Joseph Heron, writes this. As I look at the cover of The Economist, one image I am struck with is that of Alice, meaning Alice in Wonderland. She's the only character whose back is to the reader. In this stance, she represents the readership of the magazine. Now, this is his interpretation, okay? In other words, you and I are being equated to Alice from the book Alice in Wonderland. There's great symbolism here, for in this fictional tale, Alice fell down a rabbit hole and found herself in an alternate reality that was disassociated from the real world. So, too, mankind is being fed a steady stream of propaganda from a wide array of media sources, with the result that they are being conditioned to view the world as Satan wants them to perceive it, rather than how it really is. He adds that most people are living in a fantasy land. They believe lies, reject the truth, for they have been conditioned to do so from the time they entered this world. Oh, is that ever true? And then there's a picture here. He who chases two rabbits catches none. And he, just continuing here, and I'm going to cut it off and hand it over to Joe here. Like Alice in Wonderland, Satan would entice us to chase rabbits down a hole which leads to an alternate reality. If he cannot deceive us, that is Satan, he might be just as satisfied to distract us by keeping us so preoccupied with this multitude of cryptic messages that may or may not be forecasting future events that we lose sight of what is truly important. Okay, there it is. This is why we've got investigators. This is why we've got detectives. This is why we've got forensic pathologists. They all specialize in certain things. They go home at night. They leave their work at home. At least most people do. Sometimes they take them home. But the fact of the matter is they're trained in this discipline. And it takes a long time to be trained in various disciplines. To recognize, and sometimes too late, but to recognize that you're being led down this path of uselessness, or you're being purposely distracted. I mean, I can recall cases talking to people. They would intentionally throw us off the scent of what was really important. Absolutely. So you've got to be able to recognize this. Now, am I saying that we're better? No, I'm not saying that at all. We just have a little bit more experience in dealing with this, which is why I would say, be careful when you get into this, because you could spend so much time and come out of it a little bit worse for the wear mentally. And again, that's why we attempt to provide guests and others who are experienced. I mean, Russ Dizdar is so experienced, for example, in satanic crimes. Even more, I mean, so much more than we are. We've seen satanic crime sites, but Russ would understand it much better, much faster. So that's why we defer to Russ on matters like that. I guess what I'm saying to you is this. We are still working on The Economist magazine, but we are doing so in the larger context of other messages concurrent with The Economist. I would just urge everyone to take heed with respect to this parables blog.blogspot.com, the posting Chasing Rabbits. We need to be very careful. We need to look at this, and a lot of times too, some of this information out there, or some of these clues out there, are designed to make us look foolish, like conspiracy whack jobs. Yeah, there are messages being conveyed. I certainly agree with that. Look at Angela Merkel. Look at Christine Lagarde. Look at her speech. Okay, you can't tell me, for example, that I'm referring to the speech before the National Press Club back January 14th of 2014. I think it was, or in January of 2014. You can't tell me that this cryptic speech was just to was done for naught. No, there was something to that. there's something to The Economist magazine. There's something to the Super Bowl halftime shows. There's something to the actual Super Bowl itself. But don't. Well, I'll just say this: while everyone is got their eyes with respect to the playoffs and what's going on out there today. Everyone's talking about the deflated balls.
The Super Bowl.
Yeah. Deflategate, right.
You can't even avoid it if you try.
When we try. And some will say, well, I won't go there. But Joe, isn't it something how something like this can get so much attention when in fact there are so many other things that are taking place. I'm just going to end this by saying this: we are working on a larger report that doesn't incorporate The Economist. But I want to thank Angie W. and I want to thank this Joseph Heron for writing this post, because you can chase rabbits and you can go down some pretty perilous slopes and into some pretty nasty and twisted rabbit holes and come out with nothing. And and
you can get spun around the wrong direction, and depending on how much you're seeking and looking into subject matter, be driven down the wrong research or investigative track. 24, 48, 72 hours time, it's a lot in the investigative world, especially right after something's happened. And it doesn't take much, and that's what we see today, a deflection, moving us away from what's important. No matter what the sensationalist headline is, we know that there's always something in another area of society going on that we need to be paying attention to. One of the things I see today, the euro has been, the strategists have cut forecasts for the euro, and the euro has slid in value. It's at an 11-year low, or close to that 11-year low, as the European Union unveiled its bond buying program. And it says that the single currency is in free fall, blowing past analysis expectations for how low the euro can go. And it goes on to talk about in this article one of the hardest hit areas in this euro drop is Germany, which we know that from many different economists and alternative media people, that they said, when Germany goes away from the dollar, look for the dollar to fall. They're what's holding the European currency together. They're what's holding really this paper monetary system together, and they're now continuing to be downgraded so much so that they're talking about it being equal with the dollar, the euro. And there's a chart on this Wall Street Journal article that I'm looking at right now. And interestingly enough, I didn't know this. I remember when the euro came out, I always, I guess since I've been paying attention to it, thought that it was more expensive than the United States dollar. But that started in around 2004, it looks like. And it's at an 11-year low against the dollar, down to, what do they say here? It's close to 1.16, $1.12, where it was, $1.60 at its peak almost per U.S. dollar. Now it's looking at leveling out towards the U.S. currency's value, and it says that with this, some investors now say the euro could fall to a point where it's on equal footing with the U.S. dollar for the first time since it climbed back above the dollar in late 2002. It talks about the level of investments from the United States and how the United States has many assets from we're tied in with the European economy very thoroughly, as it is a paper currency not backed by anything. Like many of the central bank monetary policy around the globe is today. It's the same thing. We see it happening in all sorts of countries, and with that comes the inflation, the deflation, the rise and the drop in the value of commodities and housing bubbles. And it's like the whole world is in some way in this state of unrest, whether it's monetary unrest, civil unrest. And we see it all over the globe. In the Middle East, you have the violence, you have the instability in government unrest and social unrest. Well, over here, we have, racial unrest, and hopefully that's dying out, but from what headlines say it's not. We have the monetary unrest as people are preparing for a crash. And, could we look like the Middle East in a year or two with the right set of conditions? Absolutely. When I say the Middle East, I mean the countries that have already been torn apart internally: Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen that you see in the news now, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Jordan are looking like they're going to continue down the path of unrest, like Syria, like Egypt, like so many others. And, these central bankers who created all this are right in the middle of it.
The central bankers are indeed, we can trace back, and I think this is important to understand. We are headed right now toward we're headed right now toward a financial takedown, a takedown of the U.S. dollar, and the reason for that. I mean, this was set up back in 1933 when the United States began to no longer honor gold certificates that it issued. Those who back in 1933, I'm sure no one recalls this personally, but that was when people had to surrender. There were those who surrendered their gold and silver certificates were given fiat notes, Federal Reserve notes that we have today, that were backed really by nothing of value, and after that, gold coins were no longer be legally used. In 1968, the federal government, our federal government, stopped honoring silver certificates that it had issued, and then you saw how silver was replaced in newly minted coins with worthless base metals. Today, the currency is essentially worthless. It has no intrinsic value. The only value it has is in the minds of the people. However, you're looking at the connection to the petrodollar, or the ability, the real value is the ability of the U.S. to ensure the free flow of oil and energy across the world. That's where the value of the U.S. dollar comes from. The Federal Reserve notes we use now are paper or linen, and they're redeemable for nothing. The coins that we use currently are base metals that have almost no value at all. Soon, I believe people are going to understand this, the majority of people, and when they do, there's going to be an economic collapse far worse than anything we've ever seen. But this is the advancement into the smart card. In the last few years, advances in technology, they transformed credit cards into multi-use financial transaction cards. We see this when we take our ATM cards, debit cards, whatever you want to call them. You can use them as charge cards, or you can use them to debit your checking account. This is going to lead to embedding of a microchip in the financial transaction. Well, those cards already have. I shouldn't say lead to. They already have this. What do you call that, Joe?
The RFID. And what's in the passports? The RFID chip.
Yeah,
and that's why you see a huge market for the RFID wallet and protectors, because of the amount of hacking and identity theft crimes that are taking place through these types of transactions that have been made available. The ability to steal an identity and fake an identity can be done now very, very easily. And I say that not because I understand how to do it, but it's apparently a lot of other people do. And there was this meeting in Davos, that a World Economic Forum, that many of the world elite or puppets, whatever you want to call them, met. And Eric Schmidt, there was a few different ways that this headline was put up, and I'm going to read from InfoWars on this one. Google's Eric Schmidt greases skids for internet brain chip. CEO predicts end of web as external concept at Davos Confab. But the end of the internet, as he said, is not like what the headline reads. It is a new kind of internet. What he says, or this article goes on to say by Paul Joseph Watson, Google CEO Eric Schmidt greased the skids for an internet brain chip during the speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland earlier today, when he predicted the end of the World Wide Web as an external concept. Asked how he saw the internet developing in future years, Schmidt responded, "I will answer very simply that the internet will disappear. There will be so many IP addresses, so many devices, sensors, things that you are wearing, things that you are interacting with, you won't even sense it, he added. It will be a part of your presence at all time. Imagine you walk into a room, and the room is dynamic. And with your permission and all of that, you are interacting with things inside the room. Schmidt, who previously caused controversy among privacy advocates when he stated if you have something you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place, concluded his Davos speech by saying a highly personalized, highly interactive, and very, very interesting world is ahead. And this is what we've been talking about, this technological revolution, from a technological revolution, nanotechnology revolution, to a transhumanist revolution is what we're seeing. And this goes back to, what the Bible says, and I believe a lot of what the Bible prophesied about, this end times beast. When they say who can make war with the beast, who can make war with this. We've seen technology be used for positive advancements in society, whether it's through medicine or there's been a lot of positive uses for technology. But when the end result or end goal of all this technological revolutions and uses is to enslave a soul forever in hell, what good is it on this earth? And this is what they're doing. Through these sensors, they say, through these devices that will be on you and inside of you, you're not going to have a choice. It's, as they said, as Eric Schmidt plainly laid out, it will be a part of your presence at all times. And with your permission and all of that, he says, well, you will be a part of it, and that's the key, with your permission.
Yes, and the acclamation that we've undergone is the key here. The popularity of credit debit cards, that should be a testimony to the fact that we're truly becoming acclimated to the idea of virtual money. Think about this. Go to your convenience store and you see those little things that you swipe your cards on. They've got that, that little part on it where you don't even have to swipe it, you just have to wave it in front of that little antenna thing on the top. And it's with the advent of e-money, the advent of this kind of technology, how we pay for goods and services. It seems that we are very close to the completion of this metamorphosis from the old system of coins, of paper notes and checks, to the new digital, electronic, cashless monetary system. And I'm always kind of thinking, too, the masses. Not that I don't gamble, okay? I think it's a bad risk, making bets, going, I just don't do that. But if you walk through a casino, or if you look at any images from a casino, no longer do you put in coins. You put in a card, or so I'm told.
Yeah, they've made it possible to use debit cards. And we went to the Montana Whitestone Remnant Conference. At that Holiday Inn, I think that was the first time I saw a vending machine accept a debit card.
Well, there you have it. So we are becoming inundated, or we are becoming made to be comfortable in this brave new world of electronic commerce. And isn't it interesting that we're being accustomed to frequent changes in the way that we do business, including changes in the design of money? Now, think about this, folks. We're told, for example, that the changes in our currency. You saw the changes in the $100 bill. You saw the changes in the other bills, denominations. We're told that these changes that have been made in the appearance are to thwart counterfeiting. Well, from time to time, proposals are made to modify or even completely change the design of our currency for various reasons, but might they not only or also serve another purpose? Perhaps the purpose, frequent changes in the appearance of money, or it's being used to make us accustomed to the idea that currency is being changed, so we will be prepared to accept a change in the very nature of our currency. Think about that. It's kind of like paving the way in all parts of this to accept a cashless monetary system. And once we enter that realm, more changes will quickly follow. The people of the world will one day realize that the chains of our bondage have been forged not of steel, but of computer chips of silicon. This is the next giant step toward the mark of the beast. And, people are going to say, oh, how convenient. It's going to be lauded by the general public, praised by the general public, embraced by the general public.
Think about it. From a regular, we'll say, non dumbed down American person. They see how easy things have been through the progression of the increase of the technology that we already have, from the computer down to the smartphones that we've all been introduced to in the last 5 years. And like I said earlier, the benefits in medicine and other areas where technology really does help make things easier. They're going to placate on those preconceived notions, and people with health issues, for one, will be promised or shown that things can be healed through this merging of man and machine, this transhumanism, nanotechnology revolution we're seeing. And it's going to pull on the people's their psychological, their physical, mental strings to make things easier, to make things less painful, smoother.
I have in front of me to speak about that. Denise, thank you so much from Massachusetts. I'm not going to go any further than that. I've got in front of me, she sent me a paper. This is a request for and consent to an operation, a medical procedure. And it's a single page. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's, at the top, there's the typical I authorize so-and-so and assistance to perform the following surgical procedures, and A is a surgical procedure and B is a condition requiring surgery. And then there's about a dozen points, paragraphs, or whatever. And the final point on this one-page authorization reads as follows. I understand that during my operation, I will / may be receiving an implanted medical device. In order to comply with the Safe Medical Device Act, I agree to use my name, my address, social security number for tracking purposes. It's right here in this consent form.
Yeah.
Okay. This is coming. This is coming, and it's already here.
I do have some documents that I have been going over privately, but haven't talked about here. On the UN has put out a new global compact, the United Nations, how to develop a human rights policy. Where it talks about under this new way of society, what will be the impact of human rights on their new policies going forth, their implementation of monetary communications, assessing human right impacts and risk areas in the analysis of their new operation assessments, stakeholder consultations, integrating human rights throughout the training, communications, tracking, performance, identification, measurement indicators, providing for cooperation and remedying in advance in human rights situation, and it goes on to say this could cause a legitimate problem in human rights. This, what we're seeing today, because, and they say it right here, with right here, as an advantage cited for freestanding procedures, that is, relevant issues get the attention professionalized they deserved, but a disadvantage may be that it is not connected to the rest of the company. In contrast, folding human rights due diligence into ongoing processes may put human rights on par with other key issues when managers evaluate potential projects, but the unique attributes of human rights may thereby be diminished. And what they're talking about in the sense of a company is, I don't know if people have ever heard of the Internet of Things, and I don't know if I'm on track with this, but just think of the company as the Internet. as the connection to your connection to the grid or this beast system.
Yeah, that's right.
And think of your ability to buy and sell, to be able to get into your house or car as a what they are saying now, and you can even do this through taking pills, even vitamins. They call it authentication. Basically, authenticating you're who you say you are by having the right electronics inside you they want you to have.
Imagine that.
And this is how it's kind of being laid out in the public by different technological branches. Others are using, as I said, pilot programs, kind of like how you see the flu shot now with healthcare workers. How, a lot of nurses can't, and doctors, if they don't want the flu shot, they can't work at certain hospitals. It's going to be the same way with these programs.
Well, yeah. Now stepping back a little bit away from the medical side of things that you're hitting, just think about the headlines that you read, for example, at Zero Hedge or Silver Doctors, and whatever website that you might go to, and we have to look at these headlines as in total, I suppose. Look at them not as a single headline, but as a confluence of headlines, and I think that we have to see where all of this is headed. And I think we've got a pretty good handle on things, because at this rate, at the rate we're going, perhaps the next step toward a mark of the beast system, or a fully controlled system, or a system under which you will be completely subjugated, will be this. Imagine, for example, the U.S. dollar losing its value. I mean, it becoming worthless. Think of the Weimar Republic, okay? Or there are numerous examples out there during history that you can cite. But all of a sudden, you've got, let's say, under your mattress, you've got $10,000, and all of a sudden, the money is worthless. Or yeah, I mean, that's the best way I could think of. I don't know what other example to use. Well, you're going to get perhaps you might be given a choice. If that money, that fiat currency, suddenly becomes worthless, wouldn't it be convenient, for example, for the government to say, okay, here's what you do. Mm-hmm. Bring your money into the bank, and what we'll do is we'll, because it has no value, what we'll do is we'll give you an electronic system, a completely cashless monetary system. And we will pay you 50 cents on every dollar you've got, or a percentage on every dollar you've got. And that way, at least we can restore some of the purchasing power of your money. They can do that now because, of course, it was separated from any type of value of gold or silver. Budget deficits, trade deficits, other pressures on our economy certainly could cause a collapse any time. And the asymmetrical warfare we're seeing, and the price of oil and the price of gas at the pumps is all part of this asymmetrical warfare. But what better reason could be used to persuade the people to let go of the antiquated system of paper and coins? And then after this monetary collapse, all currency would be worthless. And again, but if you surrender your currency to the banks, it's going to be replaced by electronic credits that have value, at least in the realm of the people who are calling the shots. You're going to be given the opportunity to reclaim some of that value. You've got to be persuaded to let go of the old so you can embrace the new. That's what we're seeing right now. The strings that are attached, for example, will be heavy. And
some of
chains.
Some of these companies that NIST, the FDA, that are doing the research of this technology through government money, taxpayer money, they say that they're now dependent on customer demand, not any kind of technology, chemical process, or any other type of interactive methods. They have the method, they have the laws, they have everything except I would say the technology is what they're rolling out now, or how to roll out the technology. Well, like you said, the accelerating rate, the economies are rebalancing. We can see a time where they will, for the people who are holding out or not wanting to comply with this, becoming part of the cloud system, or being able to plug into the grid as simply as like opening your eyes. How they're going to changes in this global order will be coming through the rise of these new technologies and the human risk to benefit factor, which they say through their different outlets of publications, they've now given themselves the authority to, as doctors or medical professionals, when involved in human subjects of research or patients, that the doctors say what's best for the patients. And they say they can do that as long as the patient or the doctors are working in the patient's best interest. The patient's interests take precedent over all other things, whether the human subject involved understands or not. This is from the World Medical Association Declaration of Helsinki document, which was backed by the World Medical Association. Yeah, Helsinki. It's 5 pages. It's from October 2008. It's the World Medical Association Declaration of Helsinki. Research that.
Right. Well, we're going to be convinced, for example, that we're entering the era, or we will enter the era of a closed system.
Yep.
Right now, we've got a relatively open system with respect to our economy. You've got money that you can hide. If you have money and you want to hide it, you can hide it. You can use it. You can spend it. You can take it down to the corner store. You can go to your neighbor Bob and buy his, buy his car, or maybe buy his bed. Whatever you want to buy. I mean, you've got that ability right now, but at this, what is being presented to us, they've got is the Phoenix, and perhaps this is why the Phoenix appears so prevalently
self-duplicating,
self-immolating. Yes. In other words, they're going to burn the entire system down here in the United States, burn it all down to rebuild it.
If they have to, yeah.
Yeah, and
there's no limits to what these people won't do.
No, and really, we're looking at an electronic monetary system that everyone is going to be forced into, this cashless RFID system.
And if I can, it's not even about the cashless RFID system. What I'm learning, the transhumanist agenda.
There you go.
Have you ever seen the symbol for what they have an actual symbol for transhumanism?
Yes. Describe it.
It's the letter H with a plus symbol next to it. I've never seen that before until yesterday, I think. And these people who are on Earth, it reads in the Bible that a lot of people are. The devil promises people that you are gods in your own right. And these people who are on earth are getting impatient, as heaven is not a viable option for them. They know the Lord is real. They want immortality outside of a heavenly realm.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And this is what they're looking for. And they'll think they'll get.
Well, once more, you're going to see this system. My goodness, businesses will embrace this cashless system, this electronic monetary system, this RFID, this, and you're right about transhumanism, because think of this. Well, think about this. Right now, if you work a job, and who doesn't, but if you do, time cards. When you go to work in the morning and you leave at 5 o'clock, what's going on here?
Those in a long time.
Well,
but yeah,
you've got to have somebody. You got to punch in or have somebody write it down, or you're on the honor system. Now, if you're outfitted with an RFID in your person, in your body, that cannot be. Right now, let's say everything was based on an ATM type card, which is an identity card, a global identity card. Everyone's unique, and you all got one. Well, you can lose those. Those can be transferred. Those can be lost, or a lot of things can happen. So you've got to move to the next step, which is something that will be with you forever, and that would be this chip and this RFID chip. And of course, businesses will embrace it, because now all you have to do is scan your hand underneath a barcode type scanner or whatever, and bingo, you're at work, you're out of work, or they can even through the radio waves can make sure you're there.
And if you are a business that offers some type of product or service and you don't comply, well, if you're any business and you don't comply, you won't be a business anymore. It's just that simple.
Right. And there you have it. And the And the reason, and I believe this, into what you have been researching, Joe, the reason that we saw the passage of this Obamacare, this universal health care system, Affordable Health Care Act, the reason I believe that this was pushed through, the healthcare really is one of the most complicated systems. The requirements of insurance companies, ever-increasing government regulations, the exponential growth based on the demographics, today's demographics. You've got to, it's just out of control. So the healthcare industry is perhaps, has really encumbered itself by required documentation more than any other segment of our economy. And we're talking about 1/5 or 1/6 of our economy. So those who work in healthcare, you've got to adhere to this financial accounting procedures that are common to all businesses, but they also, you also have to keep track of others, and it's really a huge job. So the RFID system will simplify this ever-burgeoning task of record keeping, and at the same time, we will be told, it will reduce the number of errors in treatments of patients. In practice, it would supposedly prevent mistakes in the treatment of patients who have the same or similar names. Think about that. Think about some of the horrific stories that have been pushed ahead of us or pushed in front of us. But of course, all of this will be used as a weapon to force people into the new economic order to eventually worship the image of the beast. And if someone refuses to yield to the edicts of those who control the cashless RFID system, they can be denied treatment for their medical condition. Satan has known for quite a long time how to afflict people in an attempt to turn them against God. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. Job chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. So Satan can certainly and will certainly use the system to deny medical care to anybody who refuses to accept the mark of the beast. Well, like Job, those who have believed in Jesus will find that his grace is sufficient even in the worst of times. But you see that majority of people will accept the cashless RFID system. If you've got more people concerned about deflated footballs than you do about the true identity of Barack Hussein Obama, you've got a problem. We see that we've got a problem, of course. There it is. Watch your neighbors, watch your coworkers, watch the people on the street get all twisted, all upset over the deflated footballs. My goodness, that's a violation. Oh. No, you know what? But we talk about Barack Obama conclusively being outed as a CIA creation and inserted into this time right now. Oh, that's just crazy talk. Let me get back to my deflated balls. You see, that's how this is going to work.
We are at the top of the hour break. Let's take that now and come back with our guest, author Bob Kornicki. His latest book is The Temple, and we will bring him on after these short messages from our sponsors. You're listening to the Hagmann Hagmann Report on this Friday, January 23rd, 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, to the third and final hour. Sorry for that, hearing me talk off air, on air. We were connecting with our guest, and we're going to call him in just 2 minutes as he was just getting into his office. So
sliding on ice
to set up.
I tell you, man, I've been there, and I understand how that is. You know what? I just want to take this opportunity, if I may, just to say thank you to everybody who has really stuck by us and stuck with us and been part of our family. We've gotten many requests for logos, and we've gotten so many letters. I wish I could somehow show you the amount of mail we've got, and we've gone through it all and read it all, and we've got some letters and postcards and cards pinned up on our wall, and
My dad's talking crazy. He's talking about moving the studio because there's not enough room for everything.
Yeah, and we've been praying about that and praying about making doing some things that will change. Change how we do things, and not to disinfect the listener, but to really give it a richer experience. And so we've been praying about that, and good things are about to happen, I'm sure. But
the reason I said that is because I think the mail, not having a place to put the boxes of mail, and as we go through them and we save them, you could see how the office has gotten smaller.
Yeah. You walk into the office, and I will never, and I mean this, I will never, unless somebody specifically says, "Look, you got to destroy this." I'll never get rid of these letters and cards and the testimonies that we've been sent. I store them preciously. I mean, they're precious to me, precious to us. But I try, and we've been trying to respond to everyone in some way, shape, or form. It takes a while. It really it does. It's because we don't have staff. We don't have staff. It's just us, and that's the way we want it to be.
Yeah, I'm going to call our guest.
All right.
Well, we can keep talking.
Should I talk, or is it just you? Or
we're going to hear the phone ring, but we can keep talking until he picks up.
All right. But anyway.
Hi, this is Bob.
Hey, all right, Bob, you're live.
Okay.
I just want to warn you about that.
Okay, ready to go.
Okay, you all right? You need a cup of coffee or anything, or?
Nope, I'm all ready to go.
All right. Well, this gentleman. Yesterday, I was talking with Linda Kay from Prophecy in the News, and Bob, how do you pronounce your last name properly?
Kornuk.
And I was saying Kornicki. Okay, Kornuk.
And his website
Everybody gets it wrong.
Okay.
Baseinstitute.org. That's baseinstitute.org.
All right,
yes.
Beautiful.
Bookmark that, everybody. And save it. As we said, Bob will be in the Orlando Prophecy in the News Conference, or Prophecy in the News Summit here this first week in March.
I can't wait to meet you down there.
His latest book is
Temple.
Could History Be So Strongly Wrong? An Amazing New Discovery That Could Change Everything About the Location of Solomon's Temple.
Exactly. Bob, let's come right out of the gate and ask you this question first. I'm not sure how we have not done a pre-interview, so this is kind of cumbersome. But what are you going to be talking on in Orlando? What's your talk in the center on? Have you determined that yet?
I'm going to be speaking about the location of Solomon's Temple, and I think people have gotten it wrong, and I think we have done some pretty good research and have re-identified the correct location.
And so your talk is going to essentially focus on the release of your book, Temple, Amazing New Discoveries That Change Everything About the Location of Solomon's Temple. It was issued or released, published in April 30th, 2014 to be exact. It's available off of Amazon as well. Now, having said that, is that where should we start there? Should we start with that or do you want to start somewhere else?
Well, let me just give a brief overview of how I got to this place where I'm writing books about temples and things. I started off years ago being a police officer, FBI-trained homicide investigator from Orange County, Los Angeles area. And then when I left the police department, I met a man named Jim Irwin, who was the 8th man to walk on the moon, first one to drive the car on the moon. And he was famous for looking for Noah's Ark after his moon travels. And so he hired me, and then I became his executive director, and I've led many, maybe 55 expeditions looking for lost locations in the Bible, mainly where's the real Mount Sinai, Noah's Ark, Ark of the Covenant, Paul's shipwreck. We think we found the anchors off of Paul's shipwreck, and more recently, the temple research.
Wow. A resume, a CV not to be sneezed at. So, my goodness. So, in your book, Temple, it's really being heralded as an investigative masterpiece. You've got astounding archaeological and prophetic, it's filled with astounding archaeological and prophetic implications. Let me back up a little bit, because now you're talking my language. Ex-homicide detective from Orange County, huh? So you've been. Can I ask how long you were doing that?
About 10 years, and then what I do now is I just use those skills in investigating the Bible. The same skills. Right. It happened 2,000, 3,000 years ago, but it's the same skill set to research the Bible.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good. Okay. Yeah. And that's the same thing we do. We have really not talked or met. We're investigators in the private sector by profession. Of course, having a radio show that kind of fell into our lap, and from there we've been talking with people such as yourself who've really blazed some important trails here, looking back into history, and
especially with law enforcement background.
Yeah,
something we don't run across. And we've only been doing this 3 or 4 years, and I don't remember running across too many, especially who have turned their interest from homicide to the Lord.
Well, exactly, same skill set, and that to me tells me that, you've got an amazing track record there, or an amazing structure for which to investigate issues like Temple. And thank you. All right. So that had to change your life, by the way, didn't it? I mean, going from your job as a homicide detective and as a detective to working on behalf of or for or with a guy that drove a moon buggy.
Yeah.
My goodness.
That was crazy. Well, I got involved in a real bad shootout towards the end of the career, and it was just a 3-hour back and forth thing, and so I left the department right after that. A man was tragically killed, and I just recalibrated. Do I want to do something else in my life for the rest of my life? And I felt there might have been a new chapter out there. So when I met Jim Irwin, and here's a guy that's walked on another celestial body, and he's saying, hey, let's go look for Noah's Ark and Mount Sinai and the Ark of the Covenant, and so I started doing that. And then when Jim died in '91, I sort of carried the mantle, and I'm in the ministry. And so now we're really our research has gotten on a Trivial Pursuit card, and I have a major cable network that is now negotiating with me. I can't say what it is, but it's major, and so we're going to be doing on television every week a show on Bible archaeology research. So it's kind of a fun time for us right now.
Fantastic. Well, I can tell you this, our dance card for the Prophecy Conference in Orlando, and folks, please, this guy, I'll tell you what, it'd be worth the price of admission just to see Robert Kornuk talk about this. Definitely, you're going to be on our dance card in terms of who we listen to. All right. Well, I guess we can get right into it. The various discoveries, archaeological discoveries, you named a few, listed many actually, but this one has really come to fruition with respect to Solomon's Temple. Let's get into it. How'd you start? What'd you discover?
Well, after the Sinai and after the Paul's shipwreck, we have those 4 anchors off the coast of Malta that a lot of I partnered, by the way, on that one with a really neat guy by the name of Douglas Gresham, who's C.S. Lewis's stepson. So he's working with us on that project, and so after that, people are always saying to me, "Well, Bob, what's your next book? What's your next, video?" And we produce videos and books. I've written 9 books, and so they all want to know what's the next. And I said, I don't really know. I just you can't just go out and force these things. I've got to just see what falls in my lap, what God sort of lays in the path. And so I started doing some reading of his book called that was by Ernest Martin that was writing about in the late 90s about where the temple's located, and then he died, and the book it was a good book, but it didn't get the traction I think that it should have. But he proposed that the Temple of Solomon was not on the Temple Mount, and that it was in the city of David, about 1,000 feet south of there. Well, that's going to change the whole complexion of the Middle East if that's true, because the Jews are praying at the Western Wailing Wall. They want to rebuild their temple there. The Muslims say, hey, wait a second, this is our holy site. We believe this is where Muhammad went to heaven on his horse named Barak, and so this is our famous place here. And so if you put one shovel to ground here, it's going to spark World War III. And so it's a very contentious place. But so as I'm doing research off of Ernest Martin's book, I'm realizing the guy was right. And we started finding this evidence, and we started going over there, and I made a friend with Eli Shukaran, who's the director of archaeology in the city of David. He found the Pool of Siloam. And with that, we started this friendship, and now I'm going over there on my fourth trip here coming up to Israel, because we have found so many amazing things pertaining to where the temple should be located. And the Bible clearly says that the temple is in the city of David, and that tradition holds it to be on the Temple Mount. And that Temple Mount, that big high-walled structure you see with the gold dome over there that everybody says is the Temple Mount, that was the Roman fort. That was the Fortress Antonia, which housed the 10th Roman Legion. As much as 10,000 people were housed there in that high-walled area. And Jesus says that the temple shouldn't be there. That not one stone. He says in Matthew 21. 1 through 2, or I'm sorry, Matthew 24, it says, Jesus left the temple and was walking away when his disciples came up to him to call his attention to its buildings. Do you not see all these things? Assuredly, I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down. Well, Christ is saying that every stone in the temple is going to be thrown down. And in 70 A.D., that's exactly what happened. Titus went in there, destroyed the temple. Josephus says that you wouldn't even know that there was a temple there if you saw that. Other historians, such as Eleazar, says it was completely demolished to the last stone. And so we have now identified that the temple was in the city of David and not on the Temple Mount. And it really opens up the geopolitical ramifications are tremendous with this kind of conjecture.
Single-handedly, you could just flip the entire Middle East meme on its ear. I mean, flip it right over with what you're saying. I mean, everything that you're saying is, the implications behind your findings are certainly not only exciting, but certainly can change the course of history. I just want to remind people that, folks, we're talking to Bob Kernuk, the Base Institute, and just to be clear, that is the, I just had it right here. I didn't want to mess this up. The Bible Archaeological Search and Exploration Institute. He's participated in over 50 expeditions searching for lost locations as described in the Bible. He's been featured on major television networks. You got all the networks, including Fox, CNN, National Geographic, the History Channel. And again, I'd just like to point out that Bob is a former FBI-trained police investigator and SWAT team member, homicide detective. Folks, you're not talking to just anybody, okay? You're not listening to anybody. The author of 9 books. You've got a Ph.D. from Louisiana Baptist University, and you live in Colorado. So all of this combined certainly makes you someone who's an authority on these issues. Okay, so here we have it. Your findings present a potential upheaval in political and religious thinking, based on your findings with respect to the Temple Mount, and it's not the site of Solomon's and Herod's temple. So, where does this lead? And I know that we're kind of jumping forward here, but your findings, what does this imply? Where could this possibly take us?
Well, it's kind of an indictment against scholarship today. And I work with a lot of scholars, great guys, but scholars want to be published, they want to have prestige, and they want to be promoted. And if they ever say that there was a supernatural occurrence such as the parting of the Red Sea, or that the flood of Noah was an actual historical event, then they'd be ridiculed. They would not be published, they would not get prestige, and they certainly would not get promoted. So it's very just from the paradigm of being a scholar, sometimes it's very difficult to do research, and then for me as doing a researcher, finding source material. So what we did is we started this in-depth research project pertaining to the temple, and then we found that the Bible verses, and I could go for an hour just quoting you Bible verses saying that the temple is in, the city of David. 2 Chronicles 3:1, for instance, says, "Now Solomon began to build the temple at the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, at the place that David had prepared on the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite." Well, when he took the Jebusite fortress, which is not the Temple Mount, that's south of there about 1,000 feet in the city of David, he bought the threshing floor from Ornan. So the Bible's telling us that's where it is. It says in 2 Samuel 5:7 that it's in the city of David. Joel 3:17 says that it's in the city of David. So we have all these Bible verses, and I can go on and on and on. So why haven't scholars thought of this before? Well, you get so ensconced in tradition that you don't even challenge what others are saying before you. And so the way a cop looks at things, and you're well aware of this, scholars have a thing called premise plus proof, and where you put up your hypothesis and put your source material around it. What cops do is they say, what is the problem and what is the possibility? So what we do is that same procedure. We say, what are the problems and what are the possibilities? And we see problems in there. For instance, Galatians 4:25 says Mount Sinai is in Arabia. We need to go look there and see what the possibilities are. So our methodology is completely different than state tradition that we or state scholarship that we see in the universities today.
Okay. All right. Well, all right. And if I could, and I'm scattering questions here because we've got so much that we can go into, so many different avenues. And again, ladies and gentlemen, Bob Kornuka will be presenter at the Prophecy in the News Conference in Orlando, March 5th, 6th, and 7th. Please, if you can, make sure you attend and certainly see this gentleman discuss his book and his findings, research findings. Right now, we're seeing, obviously, the conflicts that are going on in the Middle East, the anti-Semitic riots that are erupting all over Europe, just everywhere, it seems like. It's just growing exponentially. Now, having said that, and I think, you touched on this, the problem, the Bible itself, in a couple of places, says that both temples were erected in the city of David or Zion, which is smaller than the area that is implied or people are looking. The implications, is explained, are enormous, and when I was talking to Linda Kay, I want to throw this out here too. She said, you are really the Christian Indiana Jones, and I thought that was a very unique characterization. For
that was kind of her, yeah.
Yeah, but the striking evidence for this alternative location. Are you? How convinced are you? Do you have evidence, hard evidence, or are we looking at the anecdotal evidence? Your investigator side, I'm appealing to that. What are we thinking here in terms of the?
Well, we do have a lot of physical evidence, along with the biblical references, talking about Zion and the Bible being. We have all the historians that we've gathered together, such as Eusebius. He was the curator of the library at Caesarea. He was literally the father of church history. He said the hill called Zion in Jerusalem, the buildings there, that is to say the temple, the Holy of Holies, and the altar, and whatever else was there dedicated to the glory of the Lord, have been utterly removed and shaken. So he's saying that the hill called Zion, Zion was known as the city of David. So we have historians such as that, and then we have Katy. He's from the time of Alexander. He says that the temple was nearly in the very center of the city of David. And we have the Bordeaux Pilgrim, then we have Flavius Josephus saying that this is the location. We have 1 Kings 1:38 and 39, and Joel 3:8. So we have all these verses. Now, aside from that, now what do we have physically? Well, Eli Shukran recently has taken me down inside the city of David, and there's a new discovery. And this discovery hasn't been talked about that much, but it's startling because you go down 30 feet, and right next to the Gihon Springs, where we think the temple is located, because the temple had to have fresh water, spring water, flowing from it, there's 3 rooms that have been uncovered, and I think there's more to be uncovered soon, but 3 big rooms that are limestone carved rooms dated to the time of Solomon, and they have rings on the walls, or you can see where the rings went to tie up the animals. There's olive presses where they had the olive oil for the anointing of the priest. There's channels in the floor. You can see where the blood of the animals drained out. And so this, we believe, is a portion of Solomon's temple. Now, Eli is like I said, the director of archaeology, and when he took me down there, he said only about 5 people had been in there, and one of them was Netanyahu. So. And by the way, I'm meeting over soon in Israel with some of the top officials in the country and from officials from around the world that are discussing the geopolitical ramifications of this discovery. People are taking it very seriously for what it has to say, and the evidence that we have is pretty much over the top. But there's been a lot of evidence that's been found in the last 6 months that leads us to believe on a scale of 1 to 100, I'm about 99.9 on this one, that this is
Wow.
where it is.
I got to tell you, coming from an investigator, commissioned law enforcement officer, FBI trained, it's a pretty heavy words. That's a pretty strong conclusion. And wow, okay.
If we can move off a little bit to the unrest we see in the Middle East right now, we see this destabilization of these governments, and starting, really with Iraq after 9/11, Afghanistan. We're seeing it still in the news today with Libya, Egypt, Yemen, Turkey, Jordan, all these, Saudi Arabia. All these countries are on the verge of unrest. Are we seeing a revolution, and prophecy unfold before our eyes as Israel's been reestablished? All the things that we see happening in our life today, in our world.
Well, it's been talked about since the World War I. People have said that it's all aligning. Then we had in World War II with Hitler; it was all aligning, and now we have. But it seems to be a different kind of alignment. Instead of just catastrophe and war, we're seeing people actually right now positioning themselves to be very far left or very far right. There seems to be no middle ground. There's no spiritual Switzerland. People are really digging their heels in on one side or the other. So we're seeing the world today is gearing towards a tremendous climax, and I think it's all going to be centered around right there in Jerusalem and real close to the Temple Mount. This is all where it seems to be happening.
It's interesting because when we notified our audience that you were coming on board tonight for an interview, all of a sudden we've got just a massive numbers of what I like to call fast blast emails here, questions for you. Some people who have followed your investigations, your various research, and obviously these are not all on the same topic, but I'm just amazed at the number of people who want to ask you about different parts of your research. One thing you said, and I know we're going to be jumping around here a little bit. For that, I apologize. But to get to as many questions as we have here from listeners who have followed your research, you had mentioned something about the Ark of the Covenant. Were you part of looking for the Ark of the Covenant?
I've done. If you've seen the History Channel specials, I've done 2 History Channel specials on that with the Ark in Ethiopia.
Right.
And so that was the work that I did after Graham Hancock. But we did 2 shows in Ethiopia over there on the Ark of the Covenant. And one of the really interesting things we found, and I'm going to be doing research on this in the next 2 months, is we found this incredible tomb over there in Ethiopia, where in an area where they have the frankincense trees that grow. Frankincense, the gift brought to Christ when he was by the wise men when he was a young child, and so those frankincense trees only grow in this region in Ethiopia, just a small part of Eritrea and maybe a smattering of Yemen, but really right in Ethiopia. And we found a tomb right there that has the inscription on it that this is the place of one of the Magi. Is buried there, and we found it in 3 places, 2 steles. One was on the church, and then we found a book that's 1,800 years old from the oldest church in Ethiopia that talks about the Magi being buried there. So we have some fascinating research projects that spawn from the search for the Ark or the search for Mount Sinai. It seems like we have a lot of different side roads to go. So it's exciting times. God seems to be revealing things in an exponential rate.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I must have a dozen emails asking me to ask you. And folks, we're talking with Bob Kernuk, baseinstitute.org. Excuse me, baseinstitute.org. If I can swallow my coffee and say your website properly, that is baseinstitute.org. But we've got a number of emails asking, well, ask him where the Ark of the Covenant is. Ask him where he thinks it is. And I think you just answered that, right? do you believe, like Graham Hancock? I think I read his book a number of years ago. I'm not sure if I totally agree with all of his conclusions.
The Sign and the Seal. It was a great book. Well, I'm about when you're talking from cop language, degrees of probability are what we apply to this, and I believe that we're probably 50-50 on the Ark being in Ethiopia. So I'm not as strong in that, but I'll tell you, the Ethiopians, I'll tell you what they do have. They have an object that they believe to be the Ark of the Covenant, and they have for 2,000 years celebrated it. And then we have, Zephaniah 3:10 that says, "From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, the daughters of my dispersed, shall bring my offering." My offering in the singular is always the ark or the tabernacle. So we have some, Isaiah 18, some great verses that talk about this wonderful object that's going to be brought to Christ, as a gift in this messianic prophecy. So I believe that in Ethiopia they have an object that they believe to be the ark, but I don't know. So I'm not as high on that one as other research projects. But I've been over there 19 times doing research on this, and every time I come away with another nugget that allows me to think that they might very well have the Ark of the Covenant.
To be clear, you've been in Ethiopia then, is what
19
you're saying?
times.
19 times.
19 trips.
Wow. Okay. No, you've got to investigate the area, of course, and interesting. Yeah, I've had people send me emails and research papers that they've done themselves, saying, "Oh, the Ark of the Covenant is underneath the temple, or it's in Jerusalem, or various locations." But that Ethiopian location has always interested me since Graham Hancock did his book. Again, I'm not 100% on his book, or his why, his conclusions, I should say. But having you say that you've been there 19 times certainly perks my ears up. Again, sifting through all of these emails that we're getting, there's just all over the board. Let me just ask you this then: what's your most exciting research project? Do you think is it the temple, or is it something different?
It had to have been Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is, there's been like 5 or 6 books and documentaries all over on that, and the Bible says in Galatians 4:25 that Mount Sinai is in Arabia. It's an ancient land of Midian or Madian, which is where Moses, tended the flock of his father-in-law Jethro. So in that area is where we need to find the highest mountain in the region. Has been talked about as being the real Mount Sinai. Flavius Josephus, Demetrius, and Philo, going as far back as 250 BC, have all said the highest mountain in that region is the real Mount Sinai. Even the renowned Professor Emeritus just passed away, Frank Moore Cross. He's the who's who of where Mount Sinai should be. He, just before he died, he said that it's more than likely in the area of Saudi Arabia and very possibly Jabal al-Laws, which is the mountain that we've centered our research on. I went over there with Larry Williams, very wealthy guy. He's the father, by the way, of Michelle Williams, the actress that has 2 Academy Award nominees. He went with me, and we wrote a book on it, did a video on it, and so we found this mountain over there that's black on top. It looks like where the fire came down, and there's pillars and altars, and other people have found other things over the years, such as the split rock at Horeb. Some people have found that, recent researchers. So that's the most exciting one. Just standing there and thinking that you're at the base of the real Mount Sinai was really exciting.
That's an interesting. Well, Newsweek, I think, did a piece on this. Am I right about your research, your investigation? Newsweek? Oh,
Newsweek, People. I had 8 pages in Vanity Fair magazine. Now, you talk about a non-biblical magazine, but they did 8 pages on this because we were arrested over there by the Bedouins, and they were going to execute us, and they had us in a cell, and so Larry and I told them we were doctors, and I gave them sleeping pills, and we escaped. And so everybody wants to do it. I just got called from a major Hollywood producer 2 hours ago that is now doing a movie on this and wants to do a movie on this, and because we escaped, and it was a pretty harrowing experience. So
wow.
It was an exciting trip, to say the least.
Well, exciting. Yeah. Folks, did you just hear that? Yeah, we were captured. They were going to execute us, but we slipped them a Mickey there, and we got out. Yeah, I would say that's pretty harrowing. My goodness. well, the significance, Mount Sinai, finding Mount Sinai, obviously. What about the geopolitical ramifications of this, aside from the biblical aspect? What about? Well, I suppose you can't really separate the two. But if we were to learn Mount Sinai is where you say it is, and based on your research, and folks go to baseinstitute.org to research or to read a lot of his research and pick up his books as well. But ramifications, implications about Mount Sinai being where you say it is?
Well, it just it's like everything that we do is we find that the Bible is prophetically, contextually, and historically accurate. For intellectual integrity, I'd tell you if I found anything that was amiss in Scripture as far as it harmonizing with history and Scripture. The Bible is a pristine historical document. The problem with people is that they've misinterpreted it, or they've allowed traditions to guide them. People say, well, how are you so successful in all these Bible searches? Well, I use the Bible as the final arbitrator and mediator in all this, and a lot of people allow traditions or former scholarship, which is just regurgitated other former scholarship down the line. So people have felt that Mount Sinai is in the Sinai Peninsula because Queen Helena anointed that area as the real Mount Sinai in about the 4th century, and then it's just carried on, and so no one's ever questioned. But the Bible is telling us clearly that it's in the ancient land of Midian or in Arabia. So I guess the takeaway from this is to use the Bible as a compass and a roadmap in life or in looking for archaeology in your quest to find out the truths of the Bible and of God being who He says He is and revealed Himself in history to be.
Well, what a wonderful framework you present, and it's interesting with all of the technology we have and all the knowledge, the increase in knowledge, to have the Bible really being confirmed. Not that it needs to be, but it's exciting when it is, and people can say, "Wow, look at this!" Current research by a top-notch investigator confirms what's in the Bible. Confirms that the Bible is in fact accurate, and is
yeah. The only problem is the and Bob, I don't know how much you see of this, but the lack of diligence in people that are reading their Bibles. There seems to be a falling away from true doctrine, and we see it today with all these different theories, from evolution to Luciferianism, which are leaving different ways or outs intellectually for people to put their faith in.
Absolutely. That is really well put. And you see, what I and don't listen to me. Bible archaeology is the most controversial subject in the world. And then you start talking about Mount Sinai and Noah's Ark, and then that's the most controversial subject in Bible archaeology. So I'm dealing with some of the most controversial things. Of course, there are going to be people that are very angry with me on a cerebral and a visceral level. But what I've done is just said, look, I'm a simple guy. I'm a cop. I follow the evidence. I don't try to taint the evidence and have a presupposition or have an agenda. I just let the evidence lead where it does, and it always leads to truth within the Scripture. That's what gets to me. For instance, the shipwreck of Paul isn't that sensational, but the Bible says that Paul had a shipwreck in Acts 27, and they dropped 4 anchors in the water in 90 feet of water off the coast of Malta on the southeast coast, in front of a reef and where 2 seas come together. It was the Greek word topon basalason, means where the 2 seas come together. Anyway, we went over to 90 feet of water, and we found that there are 4 anchors that were brought up there from divers in late 60s and 70s that are from an Alexandrian grain freighter, right from type of Paul's ship, found right in the place where Luke said it was. And there's never been 4 anchors found in the Mediterranean Sea ever together. So right here, Chuck Missler said it's 10 to the 50th power that you have to discount these anchors as being from Paul's shipwreck. So it shows me how Luke is chronically accurate and the Bible is chronically accurate, and we need to follow what the Bible has to say and not man's tradition. Jesus says in Mark 7:13, I think it is, he says, your traditions will nullify the Word of God. And that's the problem today, is we allow man-made traditions to derail scriptural mandates.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so Paul's shipwreck. Since you brought this up, I'm on the Base Institute website, and folks, definitely visit that, bookmark that site, baseinstitute.org. Just to recount the story, 60 A.D. roughly, a ship carrying 276 men, cargo of grain, shipwrecked off the coast of Malta. Now, two of the passengers on that ship were the biblical writers Paul and Luke, who were on their way to Rome, Paul as a prisoner and Luke as his attending physician and friend. That kind of gives you the context of this, of this ship, and then, of course, through Luke's meticulously detailed account of the voyage and shipwreck as recorded in Acts chapter 27. We can today undertake a journey back in time to find the remains of that shipwreck, and that you have done. Well, where are those anchors? Because you said they were found in some sort of a find, I guess, and they were taken up by others, or what?
Well, I went over there thinking I'm going to find these things, right? I hired divers, I get the gear. It's a big, expensive expedition. We know where the two seas meet. We know where 90 feet is. The Bible says that they jettisoned the anchors in the 4 anchors in 90 feet of water, and so I went over there, and these divers said, "Well, wait a second. We brought up 4 anchors from this site way back when, the late 60s, early 70s. We were diving for grouper, spearfishing. We came across these 4 anchors, brought them up, and we hid them because they're against the law to bring up anything of antiquities from the ocean floor. They can go to prison for this over in Malta. So I had to go to the president of Malta, the country, and get these guys, amnesty, and then I raised the money at $20,000 and bought the anchors, and then I donated them to the museum in Malta so they would never be taken from the island, and they'd be there forever. So they're now in the museum over there, and if you want to go see them, just go to the Maritime Museum in Malta, and you can see the anchors.
Wow. Okay. Man. And now you've got a book on your experiences, your research, your investigation on this, or DVDs. You've got both, right?
I have DVDs, books, videos, everything. You can just get baseinstitute.org and just go online, and you can order anything you'd like on that.
Super. Okay. We've got a number of listeners wanting your take on the search for Noah's Ark. You've done this. Apparently, you've been engaged in the search. What's up with that? I'll just leave it out there.
Well, I've been on 9 expeditions looking for the Ark. I was on the first expedition with Jim Irwin with a helicopter around the mountain, climbed the thing. I really hate looking for Noah's Ark because it's cold, it's snowy, there's terrorists shooting at you all the time, and avalanches and all that, so it's just not that fun. And when I started doing some research on Noah's Ark, I started realizing that maybe we're looking on the wrong mountain. People have said, well, it's Mount Ararat in Turkey, but the Bible says it's of the mountains of Ararat. And if you read Genesis 11:1 and 2, it says that the descendants of Noah were really within 3 generations after Noah, that the descendants journeyed from the east and they settled in Shinar, which is present-day Baghdad, the Tigris-Euphrates Valley, the Mesopotamia Valley. So they came from the east. The preposition there is apo, A-P-O. So they came from the east and they settled in Shinar, which means that's east of Shinar. So Turkey is northwest. So we have to start expanding the net a little bit if we're going to look for Noah's Ark. People have been laser focused on Mount Ararat in Turkey, primarily because that's where people say it is. It's very popular in Europe, and Marco Polo went through there in his journeys, and when Marco Polo went there, I think it was the 13th century, he wrote about this in his journal that he was told and heard legends of the Ark being in Turkey on Mount Ararat. And since his journals became so popular in Europe, everybody just said, well, that has to be the mountain, and no one has ever looked anywhere else. But we really need to expand the search of the Ark to include areas going all the way down to the Caspian Sea and Lake Urmia.
Wow. I like how you describe that. It's no fun. You got terrorists shooting at you, it's cold. Yeah, okay. I could tell we're talking to a former cop. I could tell. My goodness. Yeah. So you're not the Mount Ararat location. that everyone is saying this is the place. You're not so sure. In fact, you're saying
no.
Probably not. Interesting.
Yeah, Josephus said it's in the area of the Adamine. We have Julius Africanus and Nicholas of Damascus, for instance, said that it's in the area of the Minyas, which is Lake Ermia. So, when you're really going and do an in-depth subject and just don't go, wow, I'm going to go to Mount Ararat and see Noah's Ark, you really find that you should be expanding the search effort. But most people don't do that level of research and that intensity of research, and so they're left with just listening to tradition and not following what the Bible is saying.
Interesting, yeah, and I totally agree. I'm just so glad to have you. It's just so exciting to have you, a person of your stature, on this show. Let me ask you, what are your plans here? Because, again, a number of people are asking, what next for Bob? What are you going to be doing next? Are you going to be, returning to any of your previous investigative searches, or are you going to do something else?
Well, that's a good question. I get that wherever I speak in conferences around the world, and I do speak around the world on this, people always say, what's next? And it's sort of like, well, I don't know what's next. But I'd have to say, if the temple is in the city of David, then now we have to recalibrate a lot of things. For instance, where is the crucifixion site of Christ? We have to recalibrate it. If we're going to slide if we're going to slide the scale down, now we've got to recalibrate most everything. And so we have some, I can't really talk about it, but I will within next year. But we have an amazing new find that we're working on, but it's just so in the adolescent stages that I can't really talk about it because I don't have finality or a comfort level to talk about it. But I'm here to say that God is revealing things at such an amazing pace right now. And I believe that in the next 10 years that more archaeological finds pertaining to the Bible will be found than all history prior to this, because of ground-penetrating radar, because of the information transfer, because of the new technologies that we have. And I'm seeing things get found now. I think in the next 10 years you're going to see just an absolute avalanche of archaeological finds that substantiate the Bible.
My goodness, that sounds so exciting. Do you think we'll have time? I mean, is time on our side with this? I mean, I know that things are improving with respect to technology, but it seems like, as you said, knowledge is just being poured out exponentially. Are we going to be allowed to reveal or to find everything that is to be found, or do you think the politics of the region, for example, the Middle East, do you think that we're going to be embroiled in something pretty ugly here pretty soon? What are your thoughts?
I think evidence is going to be forthcoming. That is, you'll have to force feed your mind past reason and logic to discount that the Bible is historically true. I think God is giving everyone a chance. I think He's going to show evidence that it won't become a head thing; it'll become a heart thing. Your head can say, "Well, yeah, that's it," but the heart, the heart is going to derail their acceptance of this, because they're so anti-Christian, they're so anti-religion, they're so anti-God, they're so anti-Jesus, that these things are going to become an irritant. If you go online and you do research on me, for instance, I have so many people out there on the internet that just attack me wholesalely because I have the audacity to say that these events occurred in the Bible. And so you have these people attack you, and they're vehement in their anger towards you. Because you have the audacity. But Jesus says, if you read, no, Jesus is not saying it, but in Matthew, let's see, on his memory, Matthew 11:25 says, "O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, thank you for hiding the truth from those who think themselves so wise and clever, and for revealing it to the childlike." Okay, not the childish. Big difference between childish and childlike. Childlike is a total faith and trust in the Father. So I'll repeat that. Father, Lord of heaven, thank you for hiding the truth from those who think themselves so wise and clever, and for revealing it to the childlike. So these people that think themselves so wise and clever are actually living under a curse that is saying that God is shielding truth from them. Their hearts are so hardened that God will reveal the truth. Even though it's evident, he'll reveal it to the truth. And who's he going to reveal it to? The childlike, those that have a childlike faith, a total trust and faith in God.
Wow, you just said a real mouthful there. And it's amazing how these attacks, and I've seen the attacks, Bob, and we're not...
And we talk about this, all the time. Reading the Bible with preconceived notions for an argument against someone or to back up a theory. And that childlike faith is something that, and it's that spirit of I'll say religious spirit, or the spirit of legalism, religious legalism, that so many people get bogged down by, and they're closed off to even correction from the Lord due to their legalistic way of seeing the Bible, whether it's through traditions or things that other people have taught them. People are not reading the Bible for their own spiritual nourishment and to know the Lord. They're reading it to back up arguments or to fight. If they're even
absolutely
reading it.
Right. So skeptics say, "Show me and I'll believe," when God in the Bible says, "You believe and I'll show you."
Exactly.
It's interesting just to talk with you as an investigator, a detective. You're getting close to the truth when you've got a whole bunch of people just trying to slap you down and do whatever they can to take you out of the picture or out of the hunt for whatever you're hunting for. And I'm sure you experienced that as a detective, and certainly a detective here in the greater realm of the search for the truth and biblical archaeology. Bob, I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure having you on. We're at about at the end of our program. Is there anything about you're speaking to a worldwide audience, so 60 seconds, anything to say to everybody in about 60 seconds?
Well, I'm going to reveal things at this conference coming up in Orlando that we've just found over in Israel, and I'm going to reveal some things there that they're going to astound folks, and I hope you come to that event, because I'm going to show videos and photos and go through an in-depth study of the temple location and the implications. So come out to Orlando. It's going to be an awesome conference, and I'd just love to have you there.
We will. As a matter of fact, Bob, when are you speaking? What time, what day?
I speak the opening session, I think it's Friday night. I speak at 7 or 8 o'clock, somewhere right in there.
All right, yeah, we're scheduled, I think, Friday at some point. I don't know when.
This conference is different. It goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Last year it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. So I think the opening speakers start Thursday. But yeah, we speak Friday in the morning and Saturday at 8 p.m.
Okay, so we can hit this. We'll be there, Bob. Absolutely, we'll be there with notepads, and I can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, we look forward to meeting you. Absolutely.
Man, thank you so much for short notice coming on our program. I know you're very busy. You've got numerous interviews, but we want to say thank you so much, and we will see you in Orlando, sir.
See you in Orlando. God bless,
right.
Guys. Thanks. Bye.
God bless you, too. Nice meeting you.
Folks, that was Bob Krenuk, baseinstitute.org. You got to visit his website, man. Again, it's going to be worth the price of admission just for his presentation.
And I'm sure we'll have him on again, if not before, or we'll have him on after the conference, if not before.
Absolutely.
As we only had 1 hour tonight, but we will make an opportunity to have more time, because there's just so much to talk about with, how can you
I'm
go
going to buy
through
this man a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Anyone who's flipped someone a Mickey to get out of,
You know what we got to do first, though? At least I do. It's probably read one or two of his books.
Yeah. In fact, we should order the package here, because it's so much to learn. So much to learn, folks. And this is why we have luminaries like Bob Krenuk on our show. I hope you got a lot out of that, man. I didn't. So many emails of questions, but our time is short. Folks, that'll do it for us tonight. I want to say God bless you. If anything does happen over the weekend, we will be back live. There are many things that could go haywire, go south, but just keep an eye on the website. If, in fact, things do happen to such an extent that we need to come back and we'll do a show, we will.
A war or an economic collapse.
Or
no Deflategate.
No, footballs. No, sorry about that.
When is this?
I don't know.
First, if I remember correctly. Yeah,
something like that.
31st is Saturday, so it's next weekend or the weekend after this.
We may, we may just do a live broadcast during the halftime. I was thinking about that.
Maybe a live broadcast during the show
or during the. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's not like we're
I think that there's a lot of symbolism there. But again, folks, you can get down rabbit trails. Let's stay out of the rabbit trails and stay focused. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to do research. Just do it wisely. That'll do it for us tonight. God bless. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Next week we have Stan, we have Greg Jackson, and we have a few other speakers from the conference that we're going to schedule that we have not talked to before. So they will be new guests. We'll have them on before the conference, maybe next week, maybe not. But stay tuned, and we'll let you know. Until next week, stay safe, God bless, and have a great weekend.
Good night.